Sometimes like all you want to do is run. Hear me out, hear me out. It's all the things you never show. There are the things I want you to know. Secrets start in your heart to slow. But if you don't wanna tell me now, I guess I'll never know. Losing almost all my energy. It's getting hard to talk to you, and I'm the only one who speaks. It's all the things you never show. There are the things I want to know. Secrets start in your heart to slow. But if you don't want to tell me now, I guess I'll never.
Okay, you guys, welcome to the live. Happy Halloween. Just got off work and everything, but I still had to get home and, and husband was doing stuff and stuff like that. Is that you running? Oh, okay. So if that's you running, then I'm probably the one running in the opposite direction, correct? Anyways, happy Halloween, guys. So, you know, when the girl first took my picture at work, she didn't get whatever. So I said, well, no, can you get me like all the way in the picture so you can see my leg warmers too? And I'm not gonna lie, like besides loving my hair, but I look like like a golf Q-tip. I know I got really big boobies. Oops, should I say that? I know I got like really big boobies. But dang, it's just like on there. That looks like I have like some Zeds going on. Did you guys? So, anyways, this was my '80s chick look. Yeah. So, yeah. And yesterday was the butterfly look, but this was my, whoops, you can't really see it. Kind of comes out with the green screen, but anyways, the '80s chick. So, not sure what you guys did for Halloween. If you guys want to say what you did, then of course go. But yeah, that's enough. I don't really like to. Honestly, I don't really like pictures. I don't really. I just don't know. I just don't really like myself in pictures too much. It's not that I hate myself. I just don't like looking at myself in a picture. But anyways, that's enough of that now. Um, some people will be like, "Oh yeah, you look great." And I'm just like, "Yeah, okay." I'm just not one of those ones. There's people that just take selfies all day long of themselves. I'm not one of those people. Maybe when I was getting divorced, I became one of those people a little bit. When you're putting your picture on the internet and stuff like that, might have been a little bit of a hoey then. Just saying. Let's see here. So obviously, guys, happy Halloween for Ben over in Australia over there. Eat a blizzard and pizza. It's already November 1st. So yes, November 1st. I watched Tom eat a blizzard and a pizza. Numb. There was at work, like I brought chips, but like there was like so much sweets, and I can't really have too much sweets because I'm diabetic. But anyways, so but like everything, like 90% of it there was like candy and like the boxes of candy, and there was some. Joanne did bring in some. What's it called? Chicken curry chicken, not curry chicken, butter chicken, and some rice. So that was nice, even though we kind of had a Wally or whatever celebrated that yesterday. But other than that, like there was just a ton of sweet stuff, cookies, and yeah. So hope you guys had a happy Halloween. Oh my God, you guys, I should show you this picture. Oh, where is it? Oh, it's on my phone. I have to show you this picture. Okay. Before we get started here. Look how I went. Oh, it's because this green screen's not liking the coloring, I suppose. Look at that. I feel like I'm invisible right now. Anyways, weird, whatever. So I'm just gonna go with it. Don't care. Anyways, I got to show you guys this picture. It just made me laugh so hard. At this guy that was walking up front. Hi, GP. And again, happy Halloween to everybody. And I hope you guys all had a good day. I, of course, worked till this one strand just needs to find its way away. Ooh, this thing just needs to go. We need to find it a home somewhere that's not in my face. Maybe do I have a clip? I don't know. Find a clip or something. But this one strand here just needs to go. Okay. Anyways, I gotta show you guys this picture. I gotta send it to myself. Anyways, I don't even know what you call this thing, to be honest with you, but I'll send it. So I'll take that down and I'll just bring it to myself here in Messenger. You know, Ben, Messenger? You know that good thing that Facebook has called Messenger? You know that? Okay, hold on. I think my whole thing's gonna... Okay, 2 secs. Did I send it to myself? Yeah, I think I should have. Oh, there it is. Oh, okay. I was trying to discreetly, but not discreetly, take. It's a Titanic love affair. Ellen groupies are spinning now. Absolutely. 1 second here. Let me just go grab that picture. Come on, picture. I downloaded you. I know I did. There you are. Come on now. It's not the best picture. Now that I look at it, it's a little bit blurry, but 1 second. Present. Oh, come on. Get out of my way, man. Get out of my way. Let's see here. Okay. Okay. Oh, thank you, Gail. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, end of the month, eh? Halloween. November 1st tomorrow. Straggle tooth there. But anyways, Gail, thank you so much for that. Let me just let me just go to the little live stream thing. Hold on. Okay, so Lizette and GP and Aunt Clara and Callie and CISO Hotel were all it's finally working. Where are you, Charmaine? Hey, Charmaine? Where are you, Charmaine? Where are you, Rick Astley? Okay, so thank you so much, Gail, and to everyone that got one. That you know what, all day long. Okay, hold on. Let me see here. Oh, you guys forgot I had these on today as well. Hold on. Let me get my. I had my sexy string going on here. Anyways, I had different colors, but oh, there was another. But I had my total vibe going on, right? You know, with my lips on there, and you know, I drew my heart on my face, got like glitter eyes and stuff. Yeah, but anyways, so all day long, everyone kept saying, "I love your hair," and then they said it kind of reminds me of My Little Pony. Thanks again, Gail. Those 5 memberships. I don't have any more. I have to wait till tomorrow. Happy trick or treat. Well, 5 people got a treat. Then I'll take a trick. Okay. So this blobby thing is with some people that are about 10 feet ahead of them. What channel was talking about? How much Kathy loves her to down like a Harlequin romance novel, and they can't wait till he sues the state. One was even crying. Well, you know what? There's morons in every bunch, right? Like honestly. But whatever, right? Each to their own. I mean, there's people that probably think that the world is flat still. So I'd desert you guys in a second. You know that. Okay, I would. Now get this straggly thing out of my head. Anyway, so yeah, so I had these and I wasn't sure what color, but this one totally went with the theme. But anyway, so this blobby thing's walking down in front of me as I'm out vaping, outside of the work there, and I was said, I, I don't even know what this is. Does anyone know? No, Ben. Sadly, it's true. That's like saying that my chest is flat. That's not going to happen either. But so anyways, like this big jelly bean blobby thing walking down. I have no idea what it's supposed to be. I'm not sure if it's from a cartoon or if it's from, some sort of TV show. No idea. That thing that's from see Among Us. There we go. Right. Well, if that's Among Us, so this guy, I swear to God, he regretted every decision that he made in wearing this costume. So I live right across from my work, and so he was coming out the gate, and all I seen was this thing that was, bobbling around, and I was like, shit, is he even going to make it through the gate? Anyways, he did on a side angle. So anyway, he comes out, and I'm not really paying attention at this point, but I'm seeing him, and I'm talking to the phone or on the phone with my husband, and I'm like, husband, this guy like totally is freaking having a hard time walking in this outfit. So anyway, the moron is wearing moon shoes. The kind that bounce as you walk. So the people that he's with are like at least 10, 15 feet ahead. And he's sitting here in this bouncy thing. And then all of a sudden he stops, and I'm like, dude, you went 25 like feet. Do you need a break already? And I'm just like, oh, you're so regretting wearing those shoes. Anyways, he's standing there, and then his feet, because they're these moon shoe things, he's just like bouncing, but he's like, and it was like watching a jumping jelly bean that's standing there with these moon shoes, and I'm just like, I bet you any money this person wants to go home right now and take off those stupid ass things. Anyways, it just tickled me when I when I was like, literally went 25 yards, and you're literally regretting your decision at this moment. I mean, how do you just have worn normal shoes? But no, you got to put on these stupid moon shoes that when you're walking. So there's no, like, that would exhaust you already trying to just do that in this costume or whatever you call that. It just looks like a jelly bean with a face on it. That's what it reminds me of. But hey, if it's on this other show, whatever. Anyways, just tickled me. I have to say that. Yeah. So I don't know about you, but we don't get kids to our apartment. They do have people that are at the door, but you know, um, I just hope you guys all had a good Halloween. Or if you did nothing, well, you know what? Enjoy that. You should probably take these off, eh? I don't know. Kind of almost miss them already. Kind of think I like them, or do they bug you guys? If I have these on, do they shine too much? Yeah, yeah. I feel like I need like one of these freaking long ass cigarette stick things. Kind that are in those black things. I don't know. Anyways, you can't lay out in your bikini if you live right across from your workplace. This body would not be lying out in a bikini, regardless if I was thin or not, like I used to be. Okay, that's an old memory. Just saying. Oh no, as a kid, I guess I wore bikinis. My mom would always actually make us our bikinis, I believe. Anyways, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like I don't feel like looking at my own jelly rolls, and I'm pretty sure nobody else does either. Yeah. Anyways, you guys, hope you guys all had a great day. And okay, so let's get into some rich. You guys know that I like to play the WTHR one and go through it with you guys because I've been working 12 to 8 this week and then next week. I really don't have time to listen to the stuff that goes on. I did read some articles while I was at work and stuff today, during my lunch and whatever, or when it was kind of slow. But other than that, let me put it this way. At the moment, I don't feel overwhelmed with the information coming out today. I think if you were in the courtroom and heard Richard Allen, that would have been a whole different ball of wax versus, well, I think I did it. No, you didn't. Well, I think I did. Yes, I did. Are you sure? No, no, you didn't. Well, I think I did. You know. Oh my goodness, my goodness, my goodness. Make sure I have the right one up here. This one, I think. Yeah, Jailhouse Confessions. But anyways, I would have to say that, um, I, like compared to yesterday, right? And I don't give a shit what anyone says. Okay, um, Richard Allen, to me, in my eyes, guilty, guilty, guilty. I just needed to hear, um, exactly more puzzle pieces being put together. And it's one of those things, unless you fell off of a dumb rock or something like that, or fell off of a turnip truck, I'm pretty sure that, and it was so stupid. When the defense says, and did you check on any other Ford Focuses that might have driven by that area from out of town? Hey, dude, the guy drives a Ford Focus. He literally put himself on the bridge, right? He's wearing the exact same clothes. Like I know that the defense, it's their job to do this shit, but at the end of the day, come on, 2 plus 2 plus 2. When you add it all up in totality, and then you hear about the white van, right? I mean, what do you think? Brad Weber's gonna lie for you? Little munchkin man there? No. But anyways, so all these people that are just like whatever, each to their own, eh? Right? All these people that are sitting there like Richard Allen is innocent. Meh, meh, meh. And some, I don't know, some of the channels, they're just like sucking ass on some of these people and stuff like that, and to get court seats and stuff. I don't know. Whatever. Each to their own. All I know is, for me, this is kind of like pie in their face bite. Some people like Lana, she wants to make a conspiracy out of everything, right? From Truth and Transparency. I mean, that's the way she is. So be it. Her channel, whatever. It just makes me laugh when people, it's like when they get pie in their face, and they're gonna get pie in their face because the odds of it being somebody else were just pretty high that it was Richard Allen. But and this wasn't because it's not because I wanted it. It didn't have to be Richard Allen. It's just a matter of the evidence to show Richard Allen was the only person that would have been there with a Ford Focus on camera, right? Put himself at the crime scene at the same time, confessed. Now we've heard multiple confessions, the white van, and really we've got our answers for the most part that we were looking for. I think some of us are curious, like, hey, why did you lay the sticks that way, and stuff like that. But it's I'm pretty sure that Richard, he's, whatever, he found God and preach it and all that stuff. But nobody's gonna want to go to prison for or be on the death penalty and stuff like that. But no one's gonna want to spend the rest of their life behind bars. So even if you know you did it, you're gonna sit there and deny, 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 deny. Here's Johnny. Oh, looks like here's Jack. Badass. Don't forget about those punctuations that cause it to Streamlabs to hate you. The defense is gonna go so long. I know. Oh, and that's the thing, right? The defense is gonna go long-winded with their stuff, and bring up whoever to make. All they are trying to do is take away from the confessions. They want to create reasonable doubt and stuff like that. But I think when the closing arguments happen, and that the jury is reminded of certain things and stuff like that, um, in my heart of hearts, I feel like there's enough here, definitely, to say, you know what, come on now. You drove a Ford Focus. You literally were on the bridge, said that you were, and it's just 2 plus 2. Your phone goes missing in 2017. All these things, and all of a sudden, you're talking about a gun. and how you were unspended. And sure, people, those the dimwits are gonna go, Richard Allen, yeah, he just read the whole thing and decided that he was just gonna admit to this crime. He had nothing better to do that day than to literally admit to the deaths of Abby and Libby. Oh, by the way, Halloween is Libby's favorite holiday. So for those of you that didn't know that, Libby loved Halloween. So in honor of Libby and Abby, but especially Libby for today. Libby was born December 27th, right after Christmas time, but her favorite holiday was Halloween. So there you go, precious girl, and having happy Halloween to you. And yeah, okay, so let's play out some of this and we'll just like talk through it together if that's okay. And oh, and if you haven't hit the like button, hit the like button if you could. There's only like there's like 4 people from Twitter. Hi Twitter. Um and 32 in the channel. And I know it's Halloween and it's late and people are in the Eastern time and stuff like that. He found a plastic god. He was one heart attack away from God. Yeah, that was kind of crazy to hear that he did have a heart attack, and again, probably stress induced and stuff like that, or who knows? Who knows? That's just speculation. And he lost his sheet, even in Cass. Yeah, like, you're talking about Cass County that he just got moved to, correct? The one that he's lost his shit in there. This is why they had you in prison instead of jail. You can't. Oh yeah, right, with the 2 black eyes and all that stuff. Exactly. But whatever. My thing is this: is that again, you do the crime, you do the time. Can't feel sorry for you, dude. I don't give a shit what badass shit happened in your life, to the point that you decided to go out and take other people's lives. If you have issues and stuff like that, I would feel sorry for you. But when you go take other people's lives, I don't give a shit. There's no excuse for taking somebody else's life. Don't give me any excuse at all. I do not care, right? Unless it's like a self-defense thing where someone's going to come in, like this at you and stuff like that, and you're protecting yourself. That's a different story. No, it, no, it's a little bit more puffier today, but other than that, it's pretty much the same color that it always is. Yeah. hmm hmm I think it's your eyes, to be honest with you, sees through. Gail gave another gift certificate out. Let's see who got that one. That was gifted to Fibro. Oh, look at. See, it's because of my green screen. So when I went on to the different screen, it's like, ooh, I guess it goes with it, especially children. Yeah. So Fibro, yeah, there you go. Thank you, Gail. Okay, let's listen to some of this together, guys, and then I'll stop it as we'll come across each of the pieces. Okay. Oh, let you down. Sucks to be you, Charmaine. She likes to hear this one. hmm Yeah, more treats. Ben's gonna do the tricks. I had tragedies in my life that didn't take. Right. I know there's people that have. Well, like I said, I'm sorry, but what? I was given a brain, and if you have issues going on in your life and stuff like that, seek help. Um, like I said, if you have little demons going off, little devils telling you all this shit and stuff like that, to me, there's still that little bit of cognizance and awareness and stuff like that. Anyways, I don't make excuses for people taking other people's lives, you know. That's just so wrong that you've hurt other families and everything, because of your sick, twisted shit going on in your brain, right? So you could have done something about it, pills help, whatever, all that different shit. But to go take and take 2 girls' lives out. And the thing was, I mean, it's supposed to be an essay, but he probably would have taken their lives regardless. He just wouldn't have essayed them and then let them go. And it was probably more towards Abby or Libby probably, but to me, he wouldn't have let them go regardless. So, okay, let me.
Thanks for inviting us in. This is the Delphi Debrief here on WTHR Plus. Day 12 of the Delphi murders trial brought us recorded jailhouse calls between Richard Allen and his family. Now, in those calls, alleged confessions to the murders of Abby Williams and Libby German. Our legal expert, Katie Jackson-Lindsay, will join me in a moment to analyze the new evidence. But first, let's get right out to Delphi tonight with our senior investigative reporter, Bob Siegel, and Emily Longnecker. Both of them were in court today as the state rested its case. Bob and Emily?
Scott, the state rested its case today on day 12 of testimony, but it certainly ended strong, saving its most powerful testimony for the very end, right? And just imagine being a juror, hearing someone say that he killed two girls and hearing that in his own voice and his own words. It's a really powerful thing to hear, and that's exactly what jurors got to hear.
Yeah, to hear his voice, both talking with his mother, talking with his wife, and they listened.
Yeah, they certainly did. So let's get you up to speed here on who the witnesses were today. We started the day with Brian Harshman, and he was on the witness stand for most of the day. He is an Indiana State Police Master Sergeant assigned to monitor Richard Allen's phone calls. He was the 40th and final witness for the state. And then we got the first two defense witnesses after the state rested its case. We heard from Cheyenne Mill. She's a Carroll County resident who was at the bridge on the day of the murders. And then we heard from Teresa Liebert. She is a Delphi resident who owns property right across from the crime scene. So most of the day today, day 12, it focused on Brian Harshman's testimony. He told jurors that he spent hundreds of hours monitoring all 700 plus of Richard Allen's jailhouse phone calls over the past 2 years. He and the prosecutor chose 7 of those calls to play for the jury. And the phone calls were from his wife and were to Richard Allen's wife, Kathy, and to his mother, Janice. And it was interesting how it was kind of set up in court for the jury to get to listen to them.
Right. And we were supposed to hear, 7 calls in the morning, but there were some technical difficulties.
Yes.
So we did not hear that call to his mother until the afternoon, until they came back.
Right. And the judge allowed the jurors to get a transcript of each phone call, but it was the transcripts were not entered as evidence. And the judge wanted to make it very clear every time one of these jailhouse phone calls was played in court, she told the jury, the transcript that you're going to look at, that's just to help you follow along. The transcript is not the evidence.
Right.
It is the actual phone call that is the evidence. And a lot of the information is called publishing to the jury.
Right.
When exhibits are given to the jury, they get to keep them, put them in their folder that they can refer to later. That was not the case with these phone calls. They were instructed that it was the the audio of these phone calls that they were supposed to be listening to. So one of the first phone calls that we heard was on April 2nd of last year. Richard Allen made a phone call to his mother, and he told her in that phone call that he had recently accepted Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior. He got very emotional. He started crying. He had mentioned to his mom that his wife, Kathy, had sent him a Bible and that Bible had saved his life. It was the very next day that the confession started. And we want to read you some of those transcripts that we recorded while we were in court as best as we could. On April 3rd, Richard Allen made a call to his wife, Kathy. And partway through that call, he says, I did it. I killed Abby and Libby. His wife said, no, you didn't. He said, I did. Kathy said, no, you didn't. Richard said, yes, I did. Later in the call, she says again, no, you didn't. Why would you say that? And Richard Allen said, what if I did? I think I did. Kathy tells her husband, they're screwing with you. They're messing with your mind. Richard said, I think I did. Kathy says, no, you didn't. Why would you say that? And Richard says, because I think I did. May 10th, about 5 weeks later, another call to his wife, Kathy. And on that call, Richard tells his wife, I think I've lost my mind. Kathy says, we've all lost our minds at this point. Let's not talk about anything we don't need to. Richard says, I need to tell you something anyway. His wife says, are you sure you want to talk to me over the phone? Richard says, I think I need to. Over the course of the conversation, they exchange the following statements. He says, I need you to know that I did this. Kathy says, what? No, there's no way. She later tells him, you're not well, so you don't need to say you did something you didn't do. And moments later, he says, I have to let you know I did it. Later that same day, March 10th, another phone call. He called his wife. The phone call started with Richard saying, honey. She says, yes. He said, I may have to spend the rest of my life here. And Kathy starts crying at that point. Richard said, I don't understand. I just got to know everyone is still going to love me. And he later says, it's true, honey. She says, no, it's not. He said, it's true, honey. She says, no. He said, I just hope you can still love me. If I get the electric chair, and she interrupts and she says, no, and she starts crying, he says, will you be there for me? Kathy begins crying louder. at that point. And Richard later says again, "It's okay, honey. I did it. I did it, baby." So extremely powerful things that the jury heard, and there was silence in the courtroom after these calls were played. And there was another call that came later after the lunch break. It was a call to his mother, Janice.
Yeah.
And to me, that call might have been the most compelling one that we heard.
When you're speaking to your mother and
Yeah.
your mother telling you, I think the most compelling part for me is when she's saying, we love you no matter what. I'll always love you. Nothing
Yes.
can change that. But we're going to read how this call went down. And one of the calls, Alan's mom started by saying, "It's good to hear your voice." And Alan replies, "So did Kathy tell you I did it?" His mom, Janice, replies, "We're not going to discuss this, okay? We love you. You know that, don't you?" And Richard says, "Regardless?" And she says, "Yeah." And then later in the conversation, Allen says, "I'm just worried you guys aren't going to love me because I said I did it." And his mom says, "Look, you're not in a good place." And then she says, "We'll always love you no matter what." After that, Alan again says, "I did it." And then his mom replies, "Rick, don't talk like this. I think they're just messing with you." And after a pause, Richard tells his mom, "I love you." And she replies, "I just know you don't have it in you to do something like this." And he says, "Mom, why would I tell you I did it if I didn't?"
And that very last statement, that is the statement that to me was perhaps the most telling, because so much of this comes down to Richard Allen's mental state during the time that these calls were made, and his mom saying, "Look, honey, I know you don't have it in you. You couldn't do something like this." And the fact that he stops and he points out to her, "Wait a second. Why would I tell you I did it if I didn't actually do it?" To me was a moment that went to his mental state.
That, and I was also listening to her voice during it. She tried to stay very upbeat, and I was trying to put myself in her shoes, being a mother and listening to your child tell you this, right? And she's saying, "We'll love you no matter what." And her tone stayed upbeat through that.
Yes.
His, not so much.
Okay, so I heard, whoops, I'm down here. Where am I? How am I down here? I should be up here. There we go. Better. Yeah, like that last, even too, like when I was reading that this afternoon, that last part of it, right? Like those are things that are telling to that he's aware of, it's kind of like, yeah, I think I did it, because he's not at that full accountability, but kind of, in a sense, it's kind of like when somebody is trying to lessen the gravity of the situation by saying, "I think I did it. Yes, I did," and of course, no wife wants to hear that, right? No, like imagine finding out that your husband's admitting to the murders of these Delphi girls, right? That is such a huge case in the thing. And no matter what, it's like a mother. Okay, maybe not so much the wife always, but the mother, you're going to love your child no matter what. Look at Chris Watt's parents, right? Like, no matter what, that person is still your child, no matter what kind of evil that they've done. I mean, some parents out there will disown and stuff like that, but, it just seemed like he was so worried that nobody would talk to him in a sense. But I mean, that was very telling, I do believe myself at the end, because that tells me how I've always felt is that he's very much aware of what he did. I'm not like, I get that when you're in the state that he's in, but I'm not believing or buying the fact that he was admitting to a crime that he didn't commit because he's insane and stuff like that. Is whatever. No. Okay, you might say stupid shit out of your mouth because you're in that space in your life where your whole life is crumbling beyond you and you feel like you're probably claustrophobic, trapped in the space. Your life is like rolling right before your eyes there. And I'm sure anyone would feel like they were going insane in their own brain, because all day long, pretty much, you have to talk with your head and your own thoughts. And we all know that if you spend too much time talking with your own thoughts, a lot of different shit can go from A to Z and stuff like that. And yeah, you feel it's a punctuation. Let's see. Badass says, "I feel sorry for Ellen's family, but she needs to snap out of her coma and smell the coffee. His mother knows." Right. It's just one of those things, right? No one wants to believe. Like I said, imagine badass if your girlfriend or wife or whatever, and the cops came knocking at your door basically, saying that you committed, that she committed a crime of this and that, and you're like, no, no, right? It's hard when you're too close to a situation like that. Like, you, as a wife or whatever, you would literally need to even have some sort of, believability to it. You would have to have like like very solid evidence, because until then, in your head, you can't even closely wrap your head around, no, I have sex with this guy, we spent, like, we have a child together, we do this. There's no time that I would have known that I would have ever thought he would have done this or something like that, right? Because it's all about the denial and to sit there, and for someone kind of like in the Rex Heuermann case as well, and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, Elsa, whatever. But when you've been in a marriage and that for a long time, and just to literally have something blasted at you like that, it's going to take a long time. And you're going to have very solid evidence probably for that wife to believe you. Like, you literally, and I wouldn't doubt now if her tune has probably changed. I don't honestly see her stop loving Rick, in a sense. I feel like she's that person that when she loves you, type of person. And you know what? Hey, everyone to their own situations. We might think it's wacko and stuff like that, but honestly, somebody would have to live through that situation. I think he was trying to talk about it. They wouldn't let him. No, because they didn't want to let him, because especially the mother and Kathy, because you're on a phone and it's being recorded. So shut the fuck up, basically. I bet he would have to take a deal. He almost needed to tell people that it would hurt to hear it. Yeah. I myself feel like Richard Allen has remorse. I do. And I feel like, nobody wants to sit there and admit, because then, you're going to that slammer for a long time. I think she is in denial, but I'm thinking that she might now be coming, she might be able to see, I think she might be able to see that there's some truth to what's going on here. And if she doesn't, then so be it. Oh, we got a sunshine on my shoulder. Do you? Welcome, sunshine. The man who admitted to SA his own daughter and others and cheating on his own wife. Yeah, well, like, I know that he said things that it's not necessarily true and stuff like that. So who knows, in the mix of all those confessions, what's of the stuff is, say, and I get it, because a normal person's thinking like that, like, and they'll say something like that. Yeah, like, most of them are true, but there's some things that aren't, because, like I said, whether it's to throw shit out there to offset his confessions that he did do, whether he's just being a loony bird that day. I absolutely believe so. Yeah. My guess is Kathy's ex was suffering, like, due to his fascination with young girls. I think she should have, probably, like, chances are, like I said, Rick, you can bet your damn dollar he was spanking his monkey a lot too. Maybe he actually had like an issue with all that, right? I'm sure he did have an issue for sure, based on what he said, about what happened, say, to him. But it's kind of one of those things, like, I mean, I can't really speak as if it's truth or nothing, of course, but it's what typical things happen in a lot of marriages. I always find that so funny. It's not very hard to fix a marriage. It's really not. It's people don't want to put in the effort sometimes, or they're just like, yeah, they'll never change and blah, 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 blah. The next thing you know, they're kind of like doing their things, but the sex life starts to dissolve and stuff like that. And then next thing you know, the guys typically, not usually the women, but the guys, if anything, the woman would cheat. But the guys usually are spank their monkey to some porn and stuff like that. It's I'm sorry, guys, but it's a typical thing that you guys do. A lot of guys do that. It's not like some deep, dark secret there. But it's watching marriages that always when people are together for so long, a lot of people just forget, um, like the importance of the marriage and that you have to communicate and stuff, and it just breaks down. But he probably was, um, obviously, um, getting his little dips from probably some porn and fantasizing about children. And I've always wondered about his daughter now. Um, do people think his daughter will testify? Well, I mean, if it was for the prosecution, but I don't know. Um, Maybe Ben. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. Hey, George Jones is a legend. Okay. Yeah, the prison guards said in your words. Oh, did he? like he was doing. Oh, okay. The prison guard said in your words, spanking the monkey. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Come on now. Yeah. It's one of those things that when you look at someone that's Richard Allen, a little pint-sized man, probably struggles with his own securities about himself, and obviously probably had a lot of issues going on, but you can bet your bottom dollar that they're usually into that stuff. It's just, I don't know what it is, but it's just, it's kind of like when you see a pedophile and you're like, and you absolutely look like a pedophile, dude. And then there's some that you see and you're like, what the heck? You're too good looking to be a pedophile. What the heck are you doing? But it's those little crazy churners up there, the little demons that talk to their brains. Kelsey, don't put me in timeout. I never spanked my gorilla. Okay. How old are you? Badass, because I don't want to make this comment if you're young. I better keep it to myself. Okay. All I know is my brother said, if ever a guy says that he's never spanked his monkey, he's lying. Yeah. But I don't want to say that if you're like young and stuff like that. So that's just to everybody else but you right now. Hey Lacey, how are you? Yeah, I do feel bad for Kathy too. Imagine you need to be put in a timeout. Listen to you guys. You guys are all like, was it because I said spanking the monkey? You guys are all like, hey, let me just spank you and put you in a timeout. Look at Gail. She's dripping these little treats on Halloween here for you guys. Let's see here. Thank you, Gail. That one went to KCL. I don't know why KCL, but when I'm looking at your name, I don't know why it's in my head, but I'm thinking of Kentucky Fried Frickin' Chicken. Anyways, I heard he was adopted. Yeah, he was. I knew Ted Bundy had a grandson. I'm 60 and a god. Oh, okay. Thank you, monkey liar. But yeah. Okay. It's my initials, Sonny. Okay, so we're gonna listen to more here a little bit, and then we'll get back into. Oh, look at Gail. Gail, you gonna spend your whole retirement fund on us tonight? Who got that one? Unsilent Bob. I personally don't recall that name in here, but congratulations, Unsilent Bob. You have won a membership. It's a crime and shame. Now you can use the emotes and don't have to use the slow mode. So lucky. Were we talking about the timeout because I mod for hidden true crime? Were we talking about timeout because I mod? At that moment, reading that, I actually don't know what we're talking about. I was talking about spanking a monkey, and by the way, she does a really good job. I was offered a lifetime and turned it down. Okay. Yeah. So, were we talking about timeout because I'm not? Yeah. My brain hurts now. See. That's all I'm going to say. I was talking about spanking a monkey. Then I went to talking about, I don't even know. See, I'm too tired. You guys, I literally probably had about two hours sleep last night. And then I had to work, right? Plus get ready for this. So this brain cells, not overly working right now. Okay.
Let's talk about his demeanor on those calls.
When
I listened to those calls,
Thanks
I
again,
heard
Gail.
Richard Allen in there who was relatively
Definitely
calm
the wig.
and relaxed.
Yeah.
Very early on, some of the calls he was crying, he was emotional, but during the calls, most of the calls to his wife Kathy and to his mom, he seemed reasoned and calm. He wasn't overly emotional. It was more matter of fact what he was
Straightforward.
saying to her.
Very.
And again, this really comes into the demeanor, because during the calls, you know, Harshman, he was asked to talk about the demeanor, and he described Richard Allen's demeanor as calm and subdued and solemn. And then there was a point where prosecutor Nick McLeland asked Harshman, he said, look, you have listened to this guy's voice as much as anybody
Right.
over the last couple of years, listening to these phone calls over and over and over again, 700 phone calls. He said hundreds of hours that he's listened to those. And he said, so you know this guy's voice. And he said, I want you to watch this video. And they played the video, the Bridge Guy video that's now famous, the video that Libby German recorded of Abby on the bridge. And then behind Abby, you can see this, what appears to be a man in a blue jacket and some kind of hat, known as Bridge Guy.
Just to, okay, I keep putting myself in the wrong spot. Yeah, when I heard that too, like, I was so glad that the prosecution asked the witness if BG and the RA's voice was the same. I was actually, you know, there's just certain things that stand out and you're just like, that's right. That's exactly one of the questions you wanted to be asked. I would love to know if Alan had sick. Well, that's just it, Sunshine. The problem here is that he had 5.5 years to get rid of any evidence that could tie him to that. So I can bet you your bottom dollar he did. But like the phone went missing, I'm sure there's a computer that went missing as well, that had all the information on it. And we all know that the LE for this particular case are a bunch of knuckleheads that don't even know how to actually do a crime scene, it seems like, or to pick up sticks and anything else and call off dogs. So I'm going to bet you your bottom dollar that whether he did it on his phone, but that phone just miraculously, of course, went missing out of all the phones. Like, he's like, people are idiots sometimes, right? Like, how does one not think that people are going to think about that? But he didn't, obviously, because he's just thinking, well, I got all these phones. Nobody's even going to notice if I have one, you know, but he had 5.5 years to get rid of that stuff. Bet you your bottom dollar, you know, that he was definitely had some on the computer or on his phone. I do too, Catherine. I do too. Careful, Pat. We'll get the channel over spanking a monkey. I guess we don't know that. Now that, yeah, you know, to be honest with you, I don't know. Do you guys feel like the prosecution, like, no, prosecution, don't you have any more goods? I feel like you should have more goods here. I guess the prosecution has, yes, the prosecution has rested. You know, I think the thing here was and Adam Aspen Connor, co-host, even though Aspen, you're MIA again. You're MIA for the last couple of days again. But anyways, what was my thought? About resting. I think the bottom line there is that they felt like they had a strong case, even though, I mean, sucks to, like, honestly, really, did they actually think that they had a strong case without those confessions? Oh, my eyebrows started twitching there. Oh. But anyways, like, do you honestly think that they had no strong, legit, solid case to me at all? There's no way on this God's green earth that I could have convicted Alan myself based on the testimony before the confessions. No. And the defense were to shred that to pieces. There's a huge difference when somebody's literally talking about the crime scene, talking about a white van, plus they're telling their mama, plus they're telling their wife, plus they're telling everybody underneath the sun because they found God and stuff like that and whatever. But anyways, are they two witnesses in at Fibro? But yeah. Well, we'll see how long the freaking defense drags the shit out for, to be honest with you. Apparently he searched something about kidnapping. Oh, did he? Did they say that in the thing today? I'm not even actually sure of her name. I just know Hidden True Crime on there. I probably heard her name, but I don't remember. Anyways, did she report on that today, KCL? Alan's groupies are angry about the white van and Richard watched Dateline murder shows weekly. Yeah, I mean, honestly, probably fascinated by it, like Barry Morphew with this Suzanne Morphew case. And if the defense puts Kathy Allen on the stand to say that she made the Google searches, it's going to make her look bad and will feel dishonest in my information. I agree with that statement. I mean, it's one of the, that's the thing about that KCL, because if I was in that town myself and I didn't know my husband had anything to do with it, and I say enjoyed true crime or that case in particular because it's right close to home, I'd probably be Google searching it, to be honest with you. Now, would I be Google searching it on Richard Allen's phone is a whole different story, right? If it's on Richard Allen's phone, which I believe it is, different ball of wax, eh? We really, oh, yes, we do. Uh, yeah, we do. I had messaged Becky yesterday, and then she responded to me this morning. And like Becky has kind of said all along, where's her message there? And of course, Libby, Halloween being her favorite day. Becky said, the truth is coming out. That is all we can ask for. That is what we have all ever wanted. And that's just it. In my heart, right? It's like I want to say to Becky. And thing is that, Becky definitely is a person that's a very strong, tigress grandmother type person. But it's really hard because my heart just aches, and thing is that there's nothing to sit there and go, Becky, I know that the girls that they can never be brought back, and did it. Like you can't to say something like that because you don't want to trigger sadness and stuff like that, even though because she's already going through sadness. But truth is of the matter is, yes, but what Kelsey and their family has achieved by these deaths and the family members, but especially those three, and then with Anna and that creating the baseball diamond in their honor, and Kelsey's, gone on to work in crime and stuff like that, so a lot of good things have, of course, in hindsight come to pass in a sense, but you can never take away from obviously the girls being murdered and that their life should have still been here. But everyone is pretty aware that those girls are never coming back. So all you can do is just fight for the justice for the girls. And this case has totally been about why? Why did Abby and Libby die that way? Why? Instead of all these rumors and that, just we want to know why and we want to know who. Yeah. Now, I'm going to scroll down because I'm way far behind. Yeah, Alan's daughter just got married and left the house. She did. She did. I still don't, I think, like, again, now versus then, now, I don't know that it had anything to do with his daughter possibly looking like her. Um, it could, but unless we'll probably never hear that, maybe, unless Richard Allen writes a freaking tell-all book in Jailhouse. But when people go to that bridge, to me, he was looking for an opportunity. He drank 3 beer. He was looking for an opportunity. The opportunity came up. Saw 2 girls crossing the bridge. He went right behind them. It was an opportunity. So it wasn't like obviously Libby. To be honest with you, Sunshine, it's not like Libby was obviously the target because we know more now. Again, it was a crime of opportunity. He thought that the girls were older, first of all. And it was the fact that 2 girls crossed a bridge. That right there cornered them. A lot of people came to the bridge, but never went over the bridge. Those girls went across the bridge. That was the mistake, in a sense. Not a mistake on the girls, but in hindsight, obviously those girls crossing that bridge gave Richard Allen the opportunity to, of course, corner them and pull a gun out on them. right? So I don't feel like it has anything to do with his daughter looking like it or that he was stalking Libby, contrary to maybe something before. But I think it's clear with the evidence and stuff like that that this is somebody that was just drinking some beer, went down to the bridge, freaking wanted to essay some girls, was living out some sort of fetish, ended up and taking the two girls' lives. But I really don't think that it was like cherry picking Libby, that this was just whoever crossed that bridge is going to be having trouble, if you get what I'm saying there. Yeah, by chance. Exactly. I agree completely. Like the story is coming out, right? We don't know all of it, but we know exactly, I think, what we need to know. And that's that why it happened. And I think that the story in itself shows that this was something that he was planning on doing, but it's not like he uh cherry picked Libby and Abby out. He did only for the fact because they crossed the bridge. Yeah. Oh, Travis. Yeah. Like my rock into the 80s. I already showed my picture of it. I got my big lip tits on there and stuff like that. But anyways, okay, gonna play some more here.
Following behind, and then they isolated in on that image. They enhanced all the audio so that the jury could again hear this voice saying down the hill. And at that point, the prosecutor looked at Harshman and he said, "Do you recognize that voice?" And the Indiana State Police trooper said, "I do." And he said, "Tell me, whose voice do you think that is?" And here's the quote that we got from him. He looked at that point, Harshman looked right at the defendant and he said, "It's the voice of Richard Allen." And that was one of the first times that we've heard anyone other than just saying, do you recognize, like the guards, they would say, "Do you recognize Richard Allen? Is he in the courtroom?" They would point to him. But this was the first time that someone directly was asked, "Do you recognize a voice or an image of Richard Allen, the person who was on that bridge?" And
Pointed him out.
Harshman pointed right at Richard Allen and said that that's him.
That's his
So
voice.
the state of mind is going to come into a big, that discussion will be key for the jury. Want to talk about a legal dispute that happened even before the jury was brought in and even before the jury got to hear these phone calls. And before the phone calls were played, the defense team asked the judge to do something, which was, at the time, it seemed interesting. They said, "Look, we know that the state is going to play two specific audio clips of these confessions from a specific day. And that was April 2nd. And they were two of the phone calls that you heard that we talked about with his wife, Kathy, that were played for the jury. And the defense pointed out that there was a phone call made earlier that day, a third phone call. And they said this phone call actually is a phone call where Richard Allen, he says that he's losing his mind. He professes his innocence, says that he had been tortured. And they said, "Look, if you're going to play those two calls, in order for the jury to get a context, you really need to play that first call." And they asked the judge to require the prosecutor that if they were going to play those two calls, that they also play the third one so that the jury could hear Richard Allen that day just before. They referred to something called Rule of Evidence 106.
Completeness doctrine.
Known as the completeness doctrine, exactly, to say, look, we're required when presenting evidence, you can't take things out of context. And you need to be able to present to the jury the whole picture. You can't leave something out.
Right. And the state said, but we are playing each of these phone calls in their entirety. We are being complete. But the defense didn't think that was the case, saying there's this earlier call at 3:12 a.m. and that's what would make this whole situation complete, is if you play that first. So it seemed like semantics, honestly, but I mean, it's the law. So,
but I think it's important semantics, and I'll be really curious to get Katie Jackson Lindsay's take on this here in a moment. But the state said we are playing the calls in their entirety, and that is what's required. And the defense basically said, well, you're playing each call in its entirety, but still the bigger picture by not playing this third call that came just a few hours before. You're still not giving that completeness. Ultimately, the judge ruled for the prosecutor, said that they cannot introduce the third call. And she did say that the defense can introduce that call at a later time, but that's going to bring up a lot of legal issues then for the defense.
Yeah, they were concerned that, okay, if we're the ones to call that 3:12 a.m. phone call, does that open the door then for Richard Allen to have to testify, and they brought that up.
Yes. I think this would be a really good time to send it back to the studio and hear
Ask
Katie
Katie.
weigh in on that, because
Yeah.
we were sitting there and this was this took a while to sort out in court. And I do believe that just, it is giving this greater picture to the jury. Is that something that is required to do? So Scott, we're going to send it back to you and we're going to listen in.
All right, very good, Bob and Emily. We'll get back to you. Let's bring in Katie
I
Jackson
agree,
Lindsay, our
Sunshine.
legal analyst. So what do you think of this legal issue that happened in court where the state basically wanted to play 2 of the 3 phone calls? The defense wanted this other one that Richard Allen made, saying that he was losing his mind, that he was innocent. What do you make of that?
It's a legitimate legal issue, and Bob and Emily do have a good grasp on it. The completeness doctrine essentially says if a party, so in this case, the state, if the state introduces any part of a document, of a writing, of a recording, or a conversation, then the defense can then introduce any other part of that particular recording and any other recording that would make it complete for fairness. And so it seems that the defense raised that issue and that they triggered that second part, that any other recording that would make it a complete conversation. And the judge disagreed with them because the state had achieved that first part of it where they're playing the entire recording, but she didn't then go to that second part of the analysis, which was whether or not it was appropriate to play any other recording.
All right, so you have been a deputy prosecutor. You've been a criminal defense attorney. If this were your case, would you, as the defense attorney for Richard Allen, would you introduce this third call?
100%. And that's why we heard Rosie ask the question of the judge. He said, well, then are you saying that we can then play this call, in our case in chief, without calling Richard Allen to testify? And essentially what he's doing is saying, Judge, are you saying that I can play it later without it being hearsay? Because a defendant cannot introduce his own statements into evidence without taking the stand and making those statements himself, because that's self-serving hearsay.
All right, let's talk about the confessions that we heard, that the jury heard today during this day in Delphi. They hear these audio recordings made by Richard.
1 second there. Okay. So I'm kind of confused a little bit because if the state has rested, what happened with that email? This so-called Jack Fungu thing or whatever, Jack Fuchu or whatever like that. I seen somebody post about that a year ago because that was on the thumb drive, right? And they said that it was almost like someone said it was like for a gaming account or something like that. But I thought there was some sort of thing. And yeah, I mean, I've said that too, Sunshine, is that he frequented the bridge, and he was probably frequenting it, and he was looking at some delicious munchies in front of him that were on that path and stuff like that. And then the day came where, the school was out and it became like, he says he drank beer, but it was probably a bit more to that. He's probably like, let me just go check out that bridge. School's out. Let me go look at some munchies. But he was prepared. He was at home, right? Remember that. So he got some beers. He was drinking. He was prepared to do something that day. So he was sitting there stewing about it at home and deciding, probably in his, having a 3 beer on there and whatever, it just kicked in. Whatever that little demon was that was going off in him for a while after he was staring at some munchies, candy treats or whatever you want to call what he's probably looking at them like. And yeah, so I would be very curious if there's anything with his daughter that ever came out, but I am probably not, because that would be on the prosecution side, I would think. But anyways, and so yeah, he obviously, like I said, he planned to go down to the bridge that day once he had some beers, and he planned on if there was an opportunity that happened, he would take it. And that's exactly to me what happened. An opportunity happened. 2 girls decided to walk across the bridge, and that was his opportunity to basically, trap them. Okay. And as for that whole, thing, to me, like whatever they said about the 3rd video in there, I don't really think it's a prosecution. I know they started talking about order of completeness or whatever, but it's kind of like, well, then the defense can bring it in if they really want it. Okay. Do you need my husband?
Yeah, left side.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay. Thank you. Do you got some Malibu in there? Nope. Okay. I think the fact that he refrained from acting on his impulses, had something to do with his daughter leaving the house. I don't know why, but my gut feeling, maybe. I'm sure there was many things going on in his mind, to be honest with you. Obviously, he wasn't, like, when I say he wasn't fully there, again, for me, that there's a distinction of someone that has little demons because of whatever issues going on in their life versus someone that is falsifying or saying that they did a crime and then acting like now that they didn't do it, right? I just, like I said, I don't fall for what I feel is people trying to be deceiving and trying to play off of something. And again, so I feel like Richard Allen definitely was having some psychotic or psychosis whatever days, but I don't feel like it was a, a norm. I do believe he was struggling inside of his brain for sure, right? I definitely believe that there was some mental health issues going on in his brain, creating him to go to that moment, but not believing that. Oh, hey, wait a second. I said I was at the trails, but oops, my time suddenly changed. Oops, my phone suddenly went missing. Oops. But that comment at the end to his mom and stuff like that, right? Well, why would I admit to it if I didn't do it? So, well, you said in the interview that, I'm not going to admit to something. I still feel like at that point he felt like he was like, look, you guys are a bunch of idiots over in the LE. You guys have no clue who the BG is. I'm not admitting to it now. You kidding? 5.5 years has gone by. I ain't admitting to shit, So why would you? Like, honestly, it's not like he's dumb for kind of like acting, and playing calm and cool. It's kind of like, yeah, well, if you have something on me, arrest me. If you don't, because you haven't managed to arrest the BG in 5.5 years now. So basically, yep, if you got something, arrest me. And then all of a sudden, boom, and it's only because that file got fudged. I mean, it's more things, but that file, right? I still don't know. Dummy Doolin, dude, I'm not going to get over you forgetting that you literally talked to somebody that was on the bridge that day. Like, talking about a moron. I'm sorry, Doolin. Moron, you are a complete, utter moron that you can forget literally talking to somebody after a press conference, after the begging about the person that was on the bridge, the one person, and your brain cells totally forgot. I don't buy that. I buy more cover up bullshit with that, that they literally were just incompetent. But how do you forget that you talked to somebody? Make sense of that for me, because there's no making sense of somebody literally talking to a person that was on the bridge that literally claimed that same time frame, and your dumbass within a very short period of time, like you, like, Kate, like there's no explaining that away, right? There's no explaining that away. What are you guys saying over there? Was anyone in chat there today? I heard Kathy was reacting to the green bandana. Is that true? Yeah, whatever came of that green bandana? Because they said, I heard then it became a green scarf, not even a bandana. There is a video of Kathy wearing his hat. Which one? The skull hat? I'm not sure which hat you mean. Badass. Is this the video? Is that video still out there? Haven't seen it. I saw. There's a picture of Kathy and maybe a video if you're talking about with the baseball cap on. I'm not sure. Correct. Yeah. Lizette, and hearing the girls calling him creepy set his rage off. I thought if I recall that word was not actually said, but I can't remember now, because I remember that them saying that like that word actually wasn't said, the word creepy, and that was like from the family. But you know what? Potato, potato. I admitted to essaying his sister. Is that who it was, KCL? And he said he was essayed as a child, so he better be in this world for many years. Okay. Let's see here. There's a video of that. But as the one of his son-in-law sitting on his lap that you mentioned. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, let me play out some more.
Richard Allen, when he's in prison, calling both his wife and his mom. What do you make of the impact that this is having on the jury?
I think it would have a significant impact on the jury in favor of the state. Again, just like all of these other confessions, it's really hard to convince a jury that your client did not do it if your client is saying that he did. But I also think we have to balance that against what we've heard about his mental state, what we've heard about the conditions that he was living in. And then when you really pick apart those statements, sometimes he says, I think I did it. Sometimes he says, well, I did it, as if someone convinced him. And so without the cameras in the courtroom, obviously it's very hard to put it in context based on the inflection in his voice. But it's challenging evidence. It's great evidence for the state. And it was very strategically appropriate to end with that evidence for their case in chief.
All right, you heard Bob and Emily talk about this Indiana State trooper who listened
No,
to
I don't think so. Court of public
Richard
opinion.
Allen phone calls from prison. And he's asked during his testifying today, do you recognize that voice?
Mhm.
Who is that? And he said, that's Richard Allen. What do you make of the impact on the jury hearing that?
Again, very impactful because he's heard Richard Allen's voice 700 times, right? And so without question, that is a gain for the state. But I expect in closing argument, we'll hear the defense argue of all the witnesses that they heard from, they had this person who only listened to Richard Allen on an audio recording 700 times testify as to his voice. All of those correction officers who talked about how many times Richard Allen confessed to them when they were his suicide watchers, none of them testified to his voice. The psychologists that met with him every day didn't testify to his voice. The interviewers, or the investigators, I'm sorry, who interviewed and interrogated him, they didn't testify to his voice against that video from the bridge. And so I think it was strategically curious that they would pick the one person who never heard from him in person, who only listened to him on audio, and compare that voice to an audio recording that's been manipulated in such a way to make it more clear, which would presumably modify his voice on that video. It's just very strategically interesting to me that that's who they would choose to identify his voice.
Last question before we get out to Bob and Emily. As a deputy prosecutor, would you have brought each of these witnesses in and asked them before the trial, do you recognize the voice of Richard Allen compared to Bridge Guy? Would you have done that in the pretrial?
100%.
Yeah.
One of the things that you learn in your first semester of law school is that you do not ask a question that you do not know the answer to at trial. And you certainly don't ask a question that you know is going to elicit a negative response that's not consistent with your case. So I suspect that either those witnesses said, no, it didn't sound like the same voice to me, or those witnesses weren't able to draw a conclusion.
All right, we're going to get back to Katie in a little bit. Bob and Emily, another key part of the testimony today involved this man who owns property that is near where the girls' bodies were found back in 2017.
Yeah, Brad Weber, and he testified yesterday. He was that gentleman that we talked about that kind of had that outburst on the stand right at the end of the day when Andrew Baldwin, defense attorney Andrew Baldwin, was questioning him about driving home from the Subaru plant, and Andrew Baldwin saying, "But you didn't drive right home. Like you told police back in 2017 that first you went to work on some ATM machines." And boy, Brad Weber did not like that. I mean, he said no, and loudly.
Yeah.
So, and that caused quite a stir.
And the way to kind of set this up, and the way they got into this testimony today is the prosecutor asked Brian Harshman, he said, was there anything that really stood out to you about any of the confessions that you heard? And he said, yeah, one of the things that really stood out to me was actually a confession that that Richard Allen had made during a conversation with Dr. Walla.
Dr. Walla, and that was in May 2023 when he talks to Dr. Walla, and he is saying that he had just planned to rape the girls, but then he saw this van, he got scared, he took them across the creek, and that's where he killed them. And then we find out from Trooper Harshman today that he's going through these reports and reading things a couple months ago, and he reads this Dr. Walla report where this van is mentioned.
And where Richard Allen had said when he described to his prison psychologist that as part of what he described there that happened on the day of the crime, that he was planning to rape Abby and Libby, but he didn't do it because he was scared away
by a van.
And that was the point that Brian Harshman then did some research and ran with that.
And talked to Brad Weber and realized that, okay, this guy named Brad Weber who lives right there at the end of that private drive, He drives a van. He goes back through, Harshman says, and he looks at all the tip sheets and he doesn't see any mentions of van in this investigation. So he concludes, look, this detail about this van, this is not public knowledge. This is not anywhere. This is what ties Richard Allen specifically to this. This is how,
You know, um, something I don't think that people are kind of even perhaps maybe not catching on to is, okay, so let's just take that. So he gets spooked and he gets by the van. He gets people to cross, the girls across the creek, right? So he gets spooked. I don't think that there was much going on to that point, but obviously, okay, Libby's phone stops at this time. Now, he's still there, though, for a good close to an hour, at least. Well, 3:30, and then she sees him up the thing. Now, the point I'm going to try to make here is that Richard Allen himself said, according to Dr. Walla, that he went up the hill, right? Like where the cemetery is, to 300 North. Okay. Now, yes, there's the Sarah Carbaugh stuff that's been out there about, 300 North and stuff like that. But, that was one of those things is that even the police didn't know which way, say, BG left. Nobody actually really knew. And Sarah Carbaugh, her story was, it was really taken with a grain of salt about this muddy and bloody because there was these discrepancies in her story. So it wasn't like it was that people believed it to be like, well, unless, you're totally convinced on it. And some people might think that, but everyone was trying to understand where the BG went. And people have done different videos. No one really actually knew, besides when Sarah Carbaugh, the PCA came out there and it told us about the 300 North and the bloody and muddy guy. Other than that, everyone was just always speculating, and everyone was more speculating, that, that not that he went down the freaking ass road, because you'd have to be total moron. Like, I don't know where his brain was there, because if it depends, that would really depend on the clothes situation and the blood on them, because you'd have to be a pretty big moron to start walking down a street and you got blood and muddy on you, and you don't think that a car is going to drive by or somebody's going to see you, but obviously at when Derek German arrives, right, he's going to hear, like Libby, Abby, da 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 da, right? So he doesn't want, I guess, go back down those trails, because obviously if he goes back down there, he's going to get his ass busted. So I guess he just opts to get out of there to go to the 300th and start walking down it. But because of Sarah Carbaugh's testimony, but so to me, I think that's like that other little egg there besides the van, is that he said that he went up and then down 300th himself. So that then now puts credence to Sarah Carbaugh's story, whereas before it was people were very leery of that, right? And other than that, it was always about speculation about how the BG left the crime scene. Right, meth mouth, if it's true. Yeah, I guess apparently 2 people have said that he's a meth mouth. And honestly, okay, if anyone knows kind of Delphi, and there is a lot of people in that vicinity that definitely are meth heads. So, it won't shock me if Weber was one of them or something like that, for him to be called that, because it's a small town. And again, there's a ton of meth in these small towns. And that's why a lot of them went to the bridge. Do you need my husband?
Just a quick one. Do you want a tuna mayo batch?
Oh wait, a sandwich? Yeah, I'll have a sandwich if you're gonna make it. Yeah, with relish in it, please. Weber lived in Logansport. Sorry, I believe. Right, I believe Sarah's testimony was spot on Alan saying he didn't know, the names of the road. Maybe Jennifer. Hi, Hoodis. Maybe Jennifer will do the direct. He may react different with a woman questioning him. Hoodis, were you in court today? Yep, Sarah Carter is consistent with the RA said he did. Yeah. KCL, he said he was interrupted and couldn't get up afterwards. Burkhart is a joke, so-called missed unbiased. Yeah, I don't honestly watch Andrea Burkhart or what I think that's her name on there myself. Um, I like for me, okay. So these lawyers kind of came out of the woodwork with Delphi once the trial began. I guess apparently some of them were following it, but you never seen them do a live or anything like that on it. And then so it's kind of like to the people that have been following the case, it's like all of a sudden these lawyers pop up. Now I want to say that I believe that like Hidden True Crime and Laura Lee are the two that I watch, and I just really like it when yeah, people are unbiased in a sense, as unbiased as they can be, meaning that they're just giving us the facts. They're telling us what's going on, and not trying to add their own fluff to it in a sense. And they're just giving it straight up. Okay, here's what happened today in court. Do. Kind of like what that the black lady that was playing on this WHDR. She has the balance of saying both things. So I just really like hearing with this trial just the facts about it, stuff like that. All these people that want to ride off on the channels with their conspiracies or this or that or be biased and stuff like that. No. You know what? Like I said, the jury, it's at the end of the day, it's to the jury, but I just like to hear the facts because that's all I care about is the facts about what happened to Abby and Libby. Like now that we're at the trial phase, there's no more guesswork in a sense. It's kind of like we've been all hearing what's going on, and then it's for us to decide whether you believe Richard Allen is innocent or guilty. I believe he is guilty. I just needed to hear the puzzle. I just wanted to see these puzzle pieces fit together, and now I feel that they completely have for me. And I feel in my heart, and I don't want to misspeak for somebody, but I do feel in my heart of hearts that that Becky probably feels, and I'm just saying this from my point of view, that with the evidence and stuff being presented, I feel like she does got her answers for the most part now, and that's all that she ever wanted to know was who and why. And I think we know why was the SA, and the who is Richard Allen, and then it just becomes about okay, so is the jury going to find him guilty? And if it doesn't because of for whatever reason, but it's one of those things like if that happens, I'll be pretty much appalled if he's not found guilty, to be honest with you. But knowing that it's a court system and that's just how it works, I will internally know that Libby and Abby are angels up in heaven there, and that I'm not going to overly get into that, but you know what I'm saying, and that life is a bitch to the person that does such things, and karma's a bitch, and that but I'll always know in my heart, like let's just say it is a hung jury or whatever, it's found not guilty, well more like a hung jury I would think, but that he did it, that he did it. But you definitely still want to see justice, right? I just wanted for the families and all of us that have been following the case to understand why this happened and show us the evidence, even if we believe it's somebody, but give us the evidence to show that it is beyond a reasonable doubt Richard Allen. So that's kind of where I'm at it now. We'll see how all the defense tries to maneuvers and do different things. Yes, afternoon session I attended. Did you ask your question? Was who this? There was a question about the voice, and I think it was unless he has asked it again. When they were talking about the voice comparison, and he's saying that it's Richard Allen, was there an objection to that, or was that in the morning or the afternoon? I think it was in the afternoon, but it could have been in the morning, so I'm not sure. Yes, honey, I like Hidden True Crime and Better Too. Gives us facts and drawing out your own conclusions. And Kitty, defense attorney, so she is balanced too. Yeah, I don't like to watch like people that I deem as little smooth ass kissers, type of thing. and like I said, that and they're just more pro the defense or something like that, or even if they were just pro the prosecution. I really don't care about that stuff. Just give us the facts. I want to know for myself what it is. Lay it out. Thank you so much. Hidden true crime, Laura Lee and stuff like that. And Deb puts out her videos as well. And it's just like, this is what happened today. Thank you. hmm Thank you, Gail Hurd, for all those memberships that you gave today for treats for Halloween. Appreciate that. Yeah, if who just can answer some questions from the afternoon. Sorry. Oh, that was in the morning. Okay. Sorry, just kind of. I think the family are going to surprise us in a good way. I suspect that they're not happy. Sorry, I gotta yawn. It's been a long day. I suspect that they are not happy with the complete lack of solid evidence. They may end up supporting and agreeing with a not guilty verdict. No, I don't think so. I don't think they'd be too happy there, to be honest. Again, each to their own. They want justice for Abby and Libby. And however that comes, it just all depends on somebody's faith and how they think of things, I guess. Oh, okay. Yeah, like I said, I don't personally watch her. Hunted Breed, thank you for subscribing. Hopefully you continue to subscribe. We followed the Delphi case here for since 2020. That's when I first learned about it myself. So again, it was just by happenstance that I ended up watching the Delphi murders and stuff. But anyways, for this channel, it's been March will be 5 years when March comes around again. But anyways, I will watch a little bit more.
We know that confession he gave to Dr. Walla, he's remembering this detail about a van, and here we have this van right in that area, and we have a timeline, yes. And then he puts it together a timeline, and we're going to let's talk about that. Yep. And Brad Weber testified to this yesterday that he works at the Subaru plant about 20 to 25 minutes away, and he clocks out at 2:02, and we saw evidence of that yesterday. We saw his clock out log from the Subaru plant, 2:02 p.m. Then we know that Libby German, she starts recording video of Bridge Guy at 2:13. There's a timestamp on that video. Then we know that Libby's phone stops moving at 2:32 p.m. and we know that via app on the phone. And of course, Brad Weber testifying yesterday that it takes 20 to 25 minutes to get home. So according to that timeline from when he clocks out at 2:02, and if it takes 20 to 25 minutes to get home, he would be returning home along that private drive in that area from 2:27 to 2:30, right at the time that this, according to the state's timeline, when all of this is going down. And Brad Rosie challenged that today. He said, so you have to put him at the scene from 2:02 to 2:32 for your theory to work. That he's speaking of Brad Weber. And Harshman says, yes.
He said, yep,
yeah,
that's pretty much exactly.
And then this one, he said, did you consider Brad Weber could be involved in the crime if you put his van there at that time? And Harshman says, no.
And that was an interesting moment today because, again, as this trial has gone on, and as we've heard testimony from a few of the state police investigators, today Harshman saying, no, it never occurred to me that the fact that Brad Weber said that he drove his van along this road that is parallel right by the crime scene. Right. I never even considered the fact that maybe even though early on he was considered a possible suspect who then they tested his gun. They tested his gun. It came back inconclusive. Right. But he said it never occurred to me that Brad Weber possibly could be involved in this. Earlier, we heard from Jerry Holman, state police investigator. We saw the interview with him and with Richard Allen. At the end, he's just screaming at Richard Allen right before he arrested him, cussing and screaming and calling him a killer and things like that. And in their minds, it seems like they were very much convinced that Richard Allen was their guy. And today with the testimony, was it almost to the point where they had rolled out the idea that it could be anyone else?
Yeah. I mean, in that video that we saw of Holman, he said, you did it and I'm going to prove it. Yeah. I'm going to prove it.
Yeah.
So, but you know what I thought was interesting about this timeline? I mean, look, we're at this trial now here in October, but if you remember that trial, initially was scheduled to happen, in May? We were going to have it in May. And then even before that, I believe last January, there was one other time. So
Yes.
if you're looking at Harshman today and he's saying, yeah, I just looked at this Dr. Monica Walla report and it got this van detail. I just looked at it 2 months ago and kind of made this connection. That's interesting. So I was saying to myself,
Yeah.
well, wow.
To say that, and you guys see how you guys feel about that too, right? So when the trial originally was set to go, you want to talk about things that are working, with those angels, Abby and Libby, because this information was like from a couple months ago, right? Like, or back in August, I believe it was. They had no idea about this information up until then. So you want to talk about God's working, and the world and the universe being in alignment with each other and stuff like that. It's been a long, hard fight for the families, for justice for Abby and Libby, and everyone that's cared about this case and wanted just for those poor girls, whether you are a shit ass troll creator or whatever, and you're just a conspiracy theorist blaming the families or whatever. At the end of the day, everyone just wanted justice for Abby and Libby. And that's what the fight was for, regardless of, which creator it was. It was always about justice for Abby and Libby. So you want to talk about the stars aligning here? This right here, because the trial got postponed due to the fact that, right, that the defense, wanted, thank you, sweetheart. Love you. All right. But you want to talk about, like I said, the stars aligning there. So all because it got pushed to October, this evidence that we would have never probably heard about up until a couple months ago when they found out. This is the cherry. It's like someone hand delivering a cherry on top for those girls. So that's what I'm going to say about that. Because my thing goes, because I don't know if you guys, or some of you guys definitely won't remember, but anyone watching this, okay, and I was just telling my son about this today. My older sister, and I don't give a shit if she's watching, I call her Satan, okay, whatever. Her and her best friend were friends for 20 years, right? We live in Vancouver area, the suburbs of Vancouver, Canada, for anyone that doesn't know. Anyways, so we're talking like a population of like 4 million, whatever, right? So what are the chances, which happened here? What are the chances that my sister, older sister Paula, is best friends with this girl? I can't think of her name actually. Is best friends with this girl. Let's call her Amanda for the sake of it. And then because of an article that came out about an obituary or something like that, my sister realizes that that's her half sister, and that the dad that she'd been searching for was her dad. Both my mom died, and her half sister's dad died prior to them finding this information out. My mom always told my sister it was a different guy because that's what she thought, but it ended up being, and she goes, well, if it's not, then maybe it has to be this other guy named Rick. Okay. So imagine being best friends with somebody and then 20, like in a like a place with millions of people, and your best friend is truly your half sister that you had no clue until 20 years later. So you want to talk about small world? That's what I'm talking about. Abby and Libby, justice for Abby and Libby on this one. And thank goodness for these confessions and the reports. So that's all I can say about that part. God bless those girls.
Oh, what if the trial had happened in May or even before that? Would we have this? We would have this. Would we have this
Right.
van detail, this connector that they seem to be connecting
Yeah.
the dots with?
Not to
Crazy,
mention the point
right?
that when they arrested Richard Allen, keep in mind the state didn't have any of these confessions
Right.
at that point. So
Right.
obviously they have what they feel is a lot of very powerful evidence,
Right.
and helping them to put together this timeline to show, including the confessions, that Richard Allen was involved. Let's move on.
Should we look at the map that kind of
sure,
goes
sure,
with
you
this? I
can-
mean, we had
yeah.
talked about that. I mean, if you remember, we brought up this map last night. That yellow mark, that's ground zero, where the girls' bodies were found across from Deer Creek. And again, that red circle, that's where Brad Weber lives. And then you see over to the left, we've got the Monon High Bridge there. And we're gonna talk a little bit later about one of the defense witnesses today, witness number 2, who also lives in and around that area where that red circle is, right
Yep.
near Brad Weber's private drive, where that begins.
But on that graphic where you see kind of the white line that comes away from that red circle, that's an access drive.
625 West. 10
That
north.
that the testimony would be that when Brad Weber returned from work, he would have driven along that little access drive.
Yeah, I mean, although I wanted to say, sorry,
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt this,
No.
but when you said he would have driven along this access drive, maybe not, because today's witness testified that you can get to the Weber property from another
From a different
entrance,
location,
from a different
right.
location through a cornfield. So they seem to be hitting on that quite a bit,
Okay.
and they asked her about that. So sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt.
that's
but
okay.
it
But
made
at
me
least
think.
what state police are saying is he would have driven along
Right.
that route, and that would have been the van that Richard Allen may have been alluding to that
Right.
scared him off from his original plans of what he planned to do at the crime scene.
True that.
Let's move along.
Okay.
There was more testimony today involving before the state wrapped up its case about some Google searches that they had wanted to enter as testimony.
Yeah, so I think this came up over the weekend that they wanted to enter in these Google searches, and the judge ruled today that they could. And it's associated with an email, foojack0@gmail.com. And looking from the exhibits today, that is an email address for Richard Allen. Now, the defense has said, and they said this on Saturday, that they're prepared to have Kathy Allen testify about some of the information that came back from these Google searches in this subpoena to Google about what were these Google searches associated with this email account that belongs to Richard Allen. So we took a look just pretty quickly at some of the Google searches that were going on. We know that this email address, someone from this email address anyway, searched 11 times Delphi murder news from January 2022 to April 2022. Also another article, Delphi, the epitome of evil. But 3 times someone searched, this was in April 17th of 2022, 3 times in that day, should I die now? Also searches about the Delphi murder updates 8 times. Several searches, this was interesting, for most disturbing and most horrifying and most insidious things I could watch. There was a search. Then another search for best kidnap and hostage video. And several other things, Delphi football and just Delphi news in general. But these are the ones that stuck out the most to several reporters as we were looking at the exhibits at the end of the day. So we know these are entered in now, but we know that the defense is prepared to have Kathy Allen testify about these searches. So,
and some of the things, the general things about, Delphi murders and updates and things. I mean, we heard earlier a witness testify that this event in her words, she said, has turned the town and everyone in it upside down.
Right.
So it wouldn't be unusual
Not
for
a
people
stretch.
to search those things. But some of the other things about kidnap and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, and the state wants them in, so they think that they're significant.
Yeah.
So, but it sounds like the defense is prepared to knock them down.
Let's
Kathy Allen.
talk about the surprise video today that we heard about in court. The state wanted very much to enter a video that most people didn't even know existed until today. And according to the defense, a video that they had not had a chance to review, that certainly was not entered as part of the discovery process.
Right.
And so the defense pushed back super hard. They did not want that video to be introduced today.
Right. And in fact, they said, look, we need to look at this before we would, we're going to push back on this. We don't want this video entered, but we would like the chance to review it. So the jury left the courtroom, and then the defense went out and took a break to review it, and then came back. And then even Judge Gall herself said, you know what, wait a minute, before I can make a ruling on this, I need to see this video. I need to watch it. And she went into chambers for about 45 minutes to look at this video. But before the jury left, we kind of got a peek, at least through Brian Harshman, about what his claim that this video shows. He said, and the jury was right there to hear it, that this video was going to show Allen screaming loudly, swearing, extremely irate, banging on his cell door, telling the guards that he wanted to kill them. So, and this is video of him in Cass County Jail, where he has been, several months anyway, awaiting this trial.
Yeah.
So, and so the state wanted the jury to see that. The defense pushed back and objected, and Judge Gall ended up agreeing with the defense and saying that we're not going to enter that in. The jury is not going to get a chance to see that video.
Yeah, and just to kind of set that up, the question that led into that video was a question from Nick McClellan, the prosecutor, to Brian Harshman, saying, have you ever seen Richard Allen act violently? And he said, yeah, I have. In fact, we have this video from just a short while ago that, and he described those things about being violent and banging and threatening the guards on there. And that's when the defense was like, whoa, wait a second.
What is this?
We haven't seen that
this.
at all. And again, to Emily's point, this took about an hour and a half of this afternoon's court testimony. The jury was kept out of the courtroom for long periods of time. They were sent away. And there were all these sidebar discussions between the attorneys. And it was one of the few times we've seen all the attorneys take part in the sidebar. Usually it's 1 or 2 attorneys from each side. This was all the attorneys, with the exception of Andrew Baldwin, took part in this. And then I thought it was really interesting that the judge decided that she wanted to do an in-camera review in her chamber. She wanted to see the video herself to determine whether or not it was appropriate for the jury to see it. And even though the jury did not ultimately get to see it, they still
got
figured out
they got a
way,
preview. Yeah.
because because Brian Harshman had already told the jury what was in this video. So they didn't get to see it, which presumably would have been possibly way more damaging for the defense. But at the same time, they at least got to hear what was on the video. And I'm curious, again, if we send it back now to Scott and Katie, it took a whole lot of time today, and it did seem to really take the defense by surprise that something as recent as just in the last few weeks would be introduced as evidence, Scott.
All right, Bob and Emily, let's go ahead and ask Katie about that. So the idea that this video is talked about by a state witness, but it's not ultimately shown, the judge won't allow it. What do you think the impact of that is?
I think it could have a significant impact. The good thing is I think that the defense was able to stop that testimony before it was put into context. And so the jury, I'm assuming, based on what we've heard, again, we're not there, so we don't know exactly, but based on what we've heard, I'm assuming that the jury didn't know whether it was at the Cass County Jail or whether it was from his time in Westville when he was going through these episodes where his behavior was erratic. I at least hope that's the case, because if it was clear that it happened while he was at the Cass County Jail, that would be really unfair to the defense now that it has been ruled the video won't come in.
Okay, let's ask you about the Google searches. These Google searches that were done by an email address owned by Richard Allen, and there's this idea that we might at some point call and hear from Richard Allen's wife to ask about these questions, looking at these variety of Delphi coverage and some other things. What did you make of the Google search?
Well, as it relates to the coverage, I don't think that that is a win for the state at all. I can't imagine that there's any Google account in Delphi that has not searched information about the Delphi murder cases a number of times anywhere in the state of Indiana, right? At least for people who have been following it, and especially for the people who are local to that area. The other Google searches could be very damaging. I mean, because based on what we've heard happened to these poor girls, this had to be a really sick and twisted person who would do such a thing. And so to think that he was potentially Googling things like the most disturbing thing that I could watch, or Googling information about kidnapping someone, I think that could be especially troubling for the defense.
All right, let's talk about this witness, Brad Weber, who was the man that Bob and Emily discussed, lived close to the scene where the bodies of the girls were discovered. And this idea that Richard Allen said that he was scared away by a van, and the fact that this wasn't initially a part of the discovery and the investigation. What do you think of this idea that this was introduced, scared away by the van, that this was Richard Allen mentioning this, and that this Brad Weber has a van in that area?
That was a particularly powerful piece of evidence for the state. That was one of those pieces of evidence that definitely tipped the scales towards the state, because up until this point, we have been saying, as it relates to these confessions, this is information he could have known. This is information that he could have gleaned from his discovery and the evidence that he had. But what we now know is that he wouldn't have had any information about that in his discovery, because that information was not confirmed and corroborated until just 2 months before this trial started. So when he was making those confessions, he wouldn't have known that information about a van. And so yesterday we wondered why Rosie made such an issue of being out servicing those ATM machines. Well, now we know why. The defense needs to make it where that's not actually true, where Weber's van wasn't actually driving by in that moment, where Richard Allen would have known only evidence that the killer would know.
All right, we're going to get back.
I'm going to say I think that she's a little thick on this one because, I did it again. 1 second. Yeah. I think that she's a little thick on this one because when she was saying that yesterday, I'm like, okay. She's like, and we don't know why, like, about the BAM thing, why it's so important. And I'm sitting there going, really? You didn't put 2 + 2 together? I mean, the whole reason was it tied into the timeline that if he wasn't there at 2:30 and it was at 3:30, then that kind of blows the whole story out of the water, really, right? So I feel like, just by my gut feeling, I feel like when he was interviewed, that in a deposition or whatever, like Travis is saying, that he might have said 3:30 because that's what we always heard, was 3:30. So in saying that, the whole point that was relevant was because of the timeline. So maybe she didn't clue into that yesterday when she was saying it, but it did kind of make me giggle a little bit. Yeah, he didn't read the discovery. He ate it. Right? Okay.
Back to Katie in a little bit. Bob and Emily, let's bring you back in. So with the prosecution resting its case of the day, the defense now has begun presenting theirs. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, two women. Their first two witnesses of the day. The first, a lady named Cheyenne Mill. She says that she testified for the jury that she went to the bridge that day with a friend, and they started on the trail at about 2:50. And she says she knows that because at 3:12, she got a call from her boyfriend just as they were getting on the bridge. And she says before they got on the bridge, they passed an overweight man who she says she and her friend said hello to. They said hi, and she said that he did not reply. He just walked on past, and then they get on the bridge, and she ends up seeing two people she knows from high school that's on the first platform. They walk across the bridge, and she says they took their time because she said that bridge is very dangerous. She reiterated that a couple times.
Started. So when he was making those confessions, he wouldn't have known that information about a
Witnesses of the day.
Mayor, tell us a little bit about that.
Sorry, I want to
two women. Their first two witnesses of the day. The first, a lady named Cheyenne Mill. She says that she testified for the jury that she went to the bridge that day with a friend, and they started on the trail at about 2:50. And she says she knows that because at 3:12, she got a call from her boyfriend just as they were getting on the bridge. And she says before they got on the bridge, they passed an overweight man who she says she and her friend said hello to. They said hi, and she said that he did not reply. He just walked on past, and then they get on the bridge, and she ends up seeing two people she knows from high school that's on the first platform. They walk across the bridge, and she says they took their time because she said that bridge is very dangerous. She reiterated that a couple times, and then she said they got off the bridge and kind of went to the bathroom.
Are they talking about the Monon High Bridge? Is that what they're talking about? Hi, Justice Jane. Because I'm sitting there going, hold on a second. So you saw a big dude that didn't say anything? Was that... Did I miss hearing this? Because there's something wrong about this, it sounds like.
Yeah,
Okay.
two women. Their first two witnesses of the day. The first, a lady named Cheyenne Mill. She says that she testified for the jury that she went to the bridge that day with a friend, and they started on the trail at about 2:50. And she says she knows that because at 3:12, she got a call from her boyfriend just as they were getting on the bridge. And she says before they got on the bridge, they passed an overweight man who she says she and her friend said hello to. They said hi, and she said that he did not reply. He just walked on past, and then they get on the bridge, and she ends up seeing two people she knows from high school that's on the...
Okay, so can somebody make sense of that for me? That's not making sense to me. Can somebody make sense of that to me? Because how would you see Richard Allen near the bridge? Like, if she saw like a stocky guy, was it somebody else? I'm confused. Can somebody explain that to me? Sounds like the trail just off from the bridge leading to the crime scene would have had a camera. Yeah, but no, he wouldn't have had a camera. That camera would have been left in his vehicle. Yeah, that's not making sense to me, because that goes against the going up the hill to 300. So, yeah, but passed him on the trail before the Monon Bridge. Yeah, but he didn't go to the trail. That's just it. I don't think it was RA. His timing's off. I don't think what she's saying, who she saw, was RA. Yeah, I don't think so either. Because it doesn't mesh.
The first platform, they walk across the bridge, and she says they took their time because she said that bridge is very dangerous. She reiterated that a couple times, and then she said they got off the bridge and kind of went to the bathroom in the woods a little bit there, just right off the bridge, and then they got back on the bridge and came back over, and they were taking some pictures on Snapchat on the way the first photo at 3:49, the last photo at 3:55, as they are sitting on the platform dangling their feet. Then they smoke a couple of cigarettes, and they said as they're leaving, they see people at the Mears entrance, a man and a woman talking, and they're distraught. And so we can imagine that potentially is the families of one of the girls. But they called police the next day when everything happened and the girls' bodies were discovered. And Cheyenne, actually, she talked about the FBI calling her
Right.
6 months later. She
Right,
also
teacher.
talked to police and they gave, she gave them her timeline. Here are our photos. Here's what we took. And she testified they didn't see anything on the bridge that day, anything unusual. They didn't hear anything unusual. But she also reached out to police at one point because she said, she had posted these Snapchat photos that they took that day. And then she said kind of these keyboard warriors started to say, well, she had seen Richard Allen that day on the trail. And she said she got doxxed. She told this whole story about how she was getting harassed from people online. And she called the police to kind of let them know, hey, this is happening to me. And here's my timeline. And here, I didn't see Richard Allen. I told you everything I saw. Here's the pictures. You've got my timeline. I didn't hear or see anything. So she kind of talked about, just going through that, trying to do the right thing and trying to
Okay,
let
so
police
now
know,
it's all
here's my
making
timeline,
sense.
here's the
Yeah.
pictures I took. And then kind of in the end being harassed on the internet. So, which we know has happened in this case, and we know happens. But second witness was a lady named Teresa Lieber. She testified she lives on the last house on the left on 625 West before you get to Brad Weber's private drive. So she's right down in that area too. And she says on February 13th, she and her husband were coming back from town at 8:30 a.m. and they see someone standing at the mailboxes that are down there for some of the houses in that area. And she said it seems strange because nobody ever stands near those mailboxes that isn't someone that has a house down in that area. And we didn't recognize this guy. And she said they pulled into their lane, and the next thing they knew, he was gone. And she said to her husband, where'd this guy go? But they didn't, they didn't really think too much of it until the next day when the girls' bodies were discovered. And then police wanted to hear from people about anything strange that they had seen. So they called police and they told them. But on the cross-examination,
the state was not impressed
They were not
at
impressed.
all with this testimony.
I thought I was talking to you, but I'm not. I guess I didn't unmute myself. So it's not RA that she saw. It would have been probably Derek German that she's talking about because he's a hefty guy. And that would have been about the right time frame there. And as for Liebert there, so way if you see that map that's on the screen and you went left and all the way down the drive, that's where she saw like way down to the beginning of the drive, totally west. That's where she saw that guy. Remember that odd sketch? That's that forced sketch that comes out of nowhere. That's the sketch of the person that she saw at 8:30 a.m. If that makes sense to you guys. Yeah. Well, apparently it happened. It's one of those things is, I just kind of myself, court of appellate domain, I let the evidence speak for itself. And I don't believe that he was this cripple that couldn't, do something like that. Like it's amazing what people can do with what they have. But I don't believe that he was this cripple that could never do this. I think it's pretty clear that he did, to be honest with you. By his own testimony. Okay, one second. I think this is almost getting over.
They said, did you see his face? And she said, no, I was taught it's rude to stare too long. So I didn't get such a good look at his face. And they said, have you ever seen this guy again? And she said no. So
and no more questions. That was a
That was
very
it.
quick
Very
cross-examination.
quick.
They made it clear to the jury that they didn't think that was helpful testimony really at all.
And she was hard to hear. She was very low, and so you could see Andrew Baldwin trying to, I don't want to say coach, but kind of standing in different places around the courtroom to get her to project. And you could see the jury kind of shifting in their seats a little bit, straining to hear her. Everyone kind of was.
So, Scott, we have the state, as we know, is arrested after 40 witnesses that took 12 days of testimony. The defense, they now have their turn. We've had 2 witnesses. This defense has given a witness list that contains more than 120 witnesses. I don't think we're going to hear from the vast majority of those, especially if Judge Gall does not allow them to introduce this alternative perpetrator theory that they want to introduce. And we haven't yet heard anything on that, right?
Well, just as court was wrapping up today after the jury left, Attorney Baldwin asked Judge Gall, he said, look, we know you're busy and you've got a lot of stuff on your plate, but are you going to make a ruling on any of those motions soon that we can introduce, like third-party suspects? And she said, I just got the second motion that you filed yesterday. I'm still looking at it. I'm still reading through it. And he said, okay, Judge, because we're trying to plan out who we're calling next. And we've got some folks under subpoena that we've got to get in here, and we're trying to figure this thing out. So basically, the sooner we know, the better.
Yep. We do have a media pass to be in the front row for day 13 coming up tomorrow as we wrap up here what's technically the third week of this trial. Some, again, more fascinating testimony, powerful testimony today as things now switch over to the defense, and we'll see what they have in store for the jury to try and counter that powerful testimony that they heard today.
Right.
So we will have more for you tomorrow night. For now, we are going to send it back to you in the studio, Scott.
All right. Bob Siegel, Emily Longnecker continuing their outstanding comprehensive coverage from inside the court. No cameras are allowed, but boy, they are painting a picture that gives all of us a really good idea about what has happened every day during this trial. I do want to bring in Katie really quickly and just ask her at least one or two questions here before we say goodnight. I want to ask you about specifically the motivation of the defense to bring in these two witnesses to start their case. Why would they choose these two, particularly the one witness who didn't seem to offer much in terms of what they did or did not see?
Well, I think they're putting in the minds of the jury that there are potentially other people that were in that area. There were other strange men who were in that area who weren't familiar to the people who lived down in that area and who stood out to them for some reason. So they're putting in the jury's mind that potentially there are other people that the investigators did not look into.
And is it significant that the witnesses did not identify Richard Allen as the person that they saw, the day that they were out on the Monont High Bridge?
Absolutely, because with these types of defense witnesses, you have to assume the defense didn't go out and find them.
Right.
These are likely witnesses that the state spoke to during their investigation, but deemed weren't necessary for their particular theory of the case. But the defense certainly thought that what they had to say was relevant. So even though those are small nuggets of information, that's another one of those things that we'll probably see the defense tie up in the end during closing argument.
Yeah, and you heard Bob and Emily mention that 140 witnesses are on their list. We've only heard from two. It'll be interesting to see how many witnesses the defense puts on there before they rest.
Absolutely. And a lot of times what you see with the defense witness list is that they also list the state's witnesses,
right,
so that they can't suggest that they were caught off guard by being subpoenaed by the defense. Because remember, throughout the trial, we've heard objections that the defense is asking questions that's beyond the scope
right,
of the state's questions. And so when those particular objections are sustained by the judge, it then puts the onus on the defense to call that witness back to ask those same questions. So we may see some repeat witnesses, but a jury certainly won't appreciate that because they'll feel like the state was hiding something from them that witness could have said.
Last question. You heard Bob and Emily break down the idea of still waiting on Judge Gull to make a ruling on this alternative suspect theory that the defense wanted to put in and asked to put in before this trial even began, and the judge didn't allow that. What is your prediction? Do you think she allows the defense to go ahead and introduce this alternative suspect theory?
Well, I think from reading the motion, she should absolutely give it serious consideration because the motion outlines each and every way that the defense believes the state has opened the door. This concept of opening the door means that you, state, have decided that you don't want this evidence to come in. So you don't get to hint towards it. You don't get to make suggestions towards it because you have to walk a fine line as it relates to that evidence as well. And so what the defense is saying is that they do not believe that the state has done a good job of walking that fine line. They think multiple witnesses have raised the possibility that they have sort of introduced this evidence with no opportunity for the state to develop it more for the jury to consider, such as indicating how the sticks were left behind. Several witnesses have testified to their belief as to whether there were multiple suspects, a belief that has changed throughout the investigation. So they believe the state has now presented enough evidence that the jury should get to see the full picture. So I think that's something that the judge has to seriously consider at this point.
Yeah, it's so interesting to hear from Katie Jackson Lindsay, who's been a deputy prosecutor. She's also been a criminal defense attorney. So she has been in the court on both sides and really helping us break this down. Katie, good to be with you again. We're going to be breaking down the Delphi murders trial every weeknight for you at 10 o'clock.
That was it for that part. For that. As for, I'm going to take these off now, I think. As for KCL, yeah, I know that they keep trying to bring it in. Honestly, I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't see it happening. That her bringing in the whole Odinist thing. You literally have a man that's confessing to being the killer. You have everything there to pretty much tell you what happened that day. From Richard Allen himself. Not only that, everything that surrounds the rest of the evidence, in a sense, however you want to look at it. The bullet, his vehicle, him putting himself on the bridge, him saying that he did it, him saying about the white van, him saying that he went up to the 300 North, all of it. Okay, the whole timeline is right there. There's no way that she's going to allow an Odinist theory. Now, as for those other ones, so Cheyenne did not see the bridge guy, right? She would have saw Derek because Derek would have been going to pick up the girls. And Derek is a heavy set man. As for Liebert, Teresa Liebert, again, she saw someone that she just thought was odd that morning. And of course, you're going to report that because you saw someone odd 8:30 in the morning, that was staring at the mailboxes and stuff like that, right? And he looks totally opposite to any of the other sketches, as you can see. But of course, is the defense going to bring up everyone and everything that they can? Like, look, we thought it was him. We thought it was Kagan Dunker. We thought it was Chadwell. We thought he was young. We thought he was old, right? Expected, for sure. And I'm overlooking some of the important facts. RA was given the court. Am I overlooking some other important facts? Was RA given a bionic heart? Well, I just don't I feel like what you're saying, court a public of opinion, is that you act like Richard Allen, that you act like, or that you feel like that because someone has had a heart attack, that somehow that they're almost incapable of doing something like this, right? And I totally would disagree. But I feel like that's what you're kind of saying, like, no way that Richard Allen did this or did it by himself or something like that, whichever you're referencing to. Again, everything has been pretty much showing, as much as I've never thought it was one person, and many of us never ever thought that it would turn out to be one person. It wasn't like he was this unfit person when these Delphi murders happened. And it's not to say that we can sit there and say that, oh, because he had heart stents put in or had a heart attack, that somehow he becomes incapable of doing it. He, I'm sure, wasn't expecting to cross the bridge or cross the creek at the time until the van spooked him. And when you're kind of in that mode of, let's get the fuck over here, right? So that you're out of sight and stuff like that. Again, just adrenaline kicks in at that point. But do I feel like Richard Allen is incapable of pulling this off? Well, everyone usually thinks that little munchkin man there. And I don't care if that offends anyone. He's a little dwarf, a little leprechaun thing. I mean, he is short, right? But short and shorter than Abby. Shorter than probably Abby and Libby, to be honest with you, on there. But again, when somebody has a gun and you're threatening to take someone's life and stuff like that, people usually try to listen because they think that maybe then there's a chance of them getting away or that they're not going to do something to them and that. But that's kind of, I feel like you're like that. You just think that Richard Allen just couldn't have possibly have done this or done it by himself. I don't see how the prosecution opened the door to Odinism by having a crime scene investigator say he thought that the killer was concealing the bodies by laying. I'm so sorry, but the whole Odinistic thing is a crock of shit. And they did what they had to do. They leaked it. They made it public when it should not have gone public before the judge had seen it, but they made it public so that everyone, which exactly happened, like little ants, they just became everyone's looking to get the clicks and the views and take any conspiracy that comes their way. The whole Odinist thing was an absolute effing joke. They tried to turn every ounce of that into some sort of Odinistic ritual. They tried to say that Abby had little freaking antler ears on her head, that the sticks were some sort of Odinism, and that this one guy from this, whatever it was, Purdue school, thought that perhaps it was just a joke. They tried to turn it into an F tree to make it seem like this had to do. And the stupid thing was about it, right, is that again, if people do their research on stuff properly, right, that F never meant the word Odin like they said it did, because it wasn't even in the right direction. And it was just stupid how they did, defense did their thing. They put people going, oh my God, Odinist, so a whole group of people of Odinists go to this crime scene, left no DNA whatsoever, right? At all these Odinists, I'm sorry. It's just ridiculous and it's beyond stupid. It's one thing to think about it and literally think if this is possible. But when they literally twisted the entire crime scene to their whole ritualistic thing, again, right? It puts it out there to the public. Anyone that hears it all of a sudden starts thinking, oh my God, there's this and that. But so many people are twats. They can't even do their own research, and they go by what people say. And you got all those channels out there that just push whatever. Doesn't matter what the F comes along, they just push it out there. And then, of course, you got that dumb idiots that just follow it and believe it without even checking it themselves. They just go to a channel, believe what that channel. I wouldn't expect somebody to believe what I'm saying. Go do the damn homework yourself. Just like I do with things, I would expect other people to do the same thing and not just believe me off stuff that I say, right? Because that would be ridiculous. But I had already searched up the whole Odin stuff and everything, and just to take a look at everything that they were trying to say. I had seen the crime scene pictures, right? 4 of them, right? We had seen those ones that were leaked. We know that there was no damn antlers on their head, and how they twisted that Abby had some antlers on her head was just ridiculous. And again, that's why they called that whole 135 page of shit a work of art, because they somehow managed to take these people. I get it that they are going, oh, well, they're looking over here. They think it's Odinist. And they got this Brad Holder guy that has freaking Odinistic shit on his site. You honestly think someone that had part in taking the girls' lives is going to leave up all their Odin shit on the freaking Facebook for everyone to see? Like, that's just ludicrous in itself. But anyways, and then you got Elvis Presley guy there who freaking, says that he spit on the girls. Great, right? Where's the DNA for that? And all that stuff. It didn't make sense. That's why it was dropped, because it just didn't make sense. Like, it wasn't turning out to be about an Odinist thing, even though it was said, right? And people believed it. But anyone with I'm sorry, I mean, I hate it when I say it like this, but to me, if anyone really looked at all the things that the defense was saying, you knew it was just a crock of shit. Wow. Oh wow, Gaming saw you talking to Tom. Oh, hey, Gaming, how are you? I just went on my little vent there. Forgive me. No, not really. Don't forgive me. I like to go on my little vents when things, common sense is a rarity. It seems like with certain things. Yeah, Julian Powell wouldn't shock me, to be honest with you. I mean, Julian Powell was on the bridge the day before, with his Google ass camera and stuff like that. He's acting all like strange. You know what? It wouldn't shock me if every 90 person that was on the BGE list, that's, the BGE list that went around with like about 90 people, witnesses are out there that saw things that don't fit with one side or the other. I think Ari could have easily have. I do too. I mean, there's nothing to show anything different. Like, we literally have a start point, like a vehicle. We have a timeline of when that vehicle arrives. Okay. No person that puts himself on the bridge and then another Ford Focus just happens to drive by at 127. It just, right, it's stuff like that you'd have to make sense out of it. So if he puts his clothes as the same as the BGs, right, and he's talking about seeing 3 girls even though it's 4, but whatever, you're still kind of sitting there going, okay, so these girls got there at this time, they saw this person with those clothes on, and they're saying that that's the person that we saw, even though they might have claimed, well, this one said, oh, well, he had black. It's common sense. And then when somebody has a gun and then they can match a gun to the bullet, in a sense, right? Regardless, like, even if Brad Weber had one, bottom line is Richard Allen put himself on the thing. So all those things have now attached to each other. And the van thing is exactly one of those things. No, none of us would have knew that. Nobody would have known about the white van. All right. So we'll have to see what comes out with that, because it could be possible that Brad Weber back in 2017 said, hey, look, I got home about 3:30. Right. And maybe that's what was said, and maybe he was like, oh, actually, no, it was more around 2:30. But it's one of those things. Right. It just becomes so that's a possibility that we'll see something where he's saying 3:30 versus the 2:30. And then, but hopefully that there's some sort of explanation if that is the case. But at the end of the day, Richard Allen saying, I was spooked by a white van. Who owns the white van? Brad Weber owns a white van. So if he was spooked by a white van, right? Who else knew that? Who else knew he was spooked by a white van? So chances are that that's going to, of course, come to fruition to be true. He says, I took the girls up. We know that she went up 20 feet, right? 232. So at this point, he's saying that he went up to 300 north, right? Up to past the cemetery there, up to 300 north. So again, placing himself at the scene, but at about 357, I believe it was. So between 232 and let's say 340, let's just say about 340. What was he doing the entire time with those girls? He obviously took their lives, put branches on them, and I honestly at this point don't know if it was placed specifically because he was trying to design, or because if he's spooked, you would think that he would be like, okay, cover, okay, I'm out of here type of thing, right? But obviously there was a good still time frame between 232 and 340-ish area that he was doing stuff, pervert, probably, changing clothes. I don't know, whatever the fuck he was doing. His license says 5'6". Yeah, I believe he's 5'6", 5'5", 5'6". He's standing right in the jail, right beside the pillars that have the markings of his height, right? So it's like right at that 5'6" area, like 5'6" to 5'7", but because he has probably something on. But anyways, it's right there at that 5'6". So I don't believe he's 5'4". I believe he is more like that 5'5.5" to 5'6" area, somewhere in there. Because why am I going to take? So because of the discrepancies, I'm going to take the fact that he's standing against a wall, which has his height right beside him, that when he's getting his mugshot taken. I think that's pretty credible. I'm pretty sure he's not standing on his little tippy toes trying to make himself taller. This is the one area where a new trial could be necessary. She is correct. The judge needs to consider very carefully because it's a reversible error. Even prosecutors in Indiana are concerned with this. Correct. I don't think that she's going to allow it, though. But we'll see. We'll see. I don't think so. But that's just my opinion. That doesn't mean the truth. But I just can't. I don't honestly see it. But I mean, I think that no matter what, there's going to be, an appeal. Military boots and a beanie and a baseball cap and pointy hoodie makes him appear 5'10". Well, at the end of the day, like I said, we have to remember what ISP did with the website, how they changed the height, right? It went from like 5'6" to 5'8" or something like that. And then they upped it from like 5'8" or something like that to 5'10". So it's just the inconsistencies of it all. Like the defense is going to play on everything that they can pull out of their hat, their magic hat there, they're going to pull out for sure. And you would have expected them to be honest with you. Casey, he worked for Google. Right. You're talking about, yeah, he worked for Google. Yeah, he's a psycho case in himself. While I also think the Otis theory is ridiculous, I do agree that the judge probably should allow the defense to present it to an appeal based on that. I can't see the jurors buying that. Yeah, it's one of those things is that I think a lot of us felt like, hey, you know what? Let them talk about their ridiculous theory, because they're probably going to make a mockery of themselves in front of the jury. The jury's going to be so fucked up by listening to that shit. They probably will make their head spin. And I think that's the whole idea of it, really. I mean, like I said, they're just trying to take things, basically they're just trying to take all the fuck ups out of the LE. And honestly, like they got so many, it's like, where do you stop with it? To be honest, from Ron Logan, right, to Keg Klein, to his dad, Jerry, whatever Klein, Jerry Klein, like there's just so many. So, but it's almost embarrassing how many there are. But I think when it comes back down to it in the closing arguments and that when they talk about the closing arguments and about the confessions and about the, to connect everything back, I think there's a pretty reasonable reason to first saying guilty, but you never know, because we see people get off for worse things in a sense. So In my court of opinion, he's guilty, but how the jury sees it could be an entirely different thing. He went to the bridge on the 13th, but then recanted. He was on the bridge on the 13th. No, not 13th, the 12th. Yeah, I think he said third. He's a whack job. Anyway, I'm good, son. He's just sitting here and went and warmed up, just now chilling. Where are you, Melissa? Where are you? Are you in Delphi or are you at home? Well, you know, I just see it as the defense is just going to do what they're there to do, get their client off and look for any holes that can bring the reasonable doubt and throw everything and whatever sticks, you know. But we'll have to see how the jury sees it all. If they're going to be like, yeah, you know, like imagine if they brought the Odinist Syrian. Come on. Like, honestly. Court TV about Odinism. Yeah, I remember that. He said that in Odism they don't commit, right? However, they can have rituals without murders, so he doesn't think it was an Otis. No, because it wasn't exactly, right? It's ridiculous. Like I get it, you know, like the whole attachment, and then all of a sudden these Odinist patches are on these guards, which is the most ridiculous thing. Like just see how crazy this case is, right? um like that it just so works out that the guards happen to be wearing Odinist patches. Like, when have you ever seen as a guard that's allowed to put a patch on of their like religion like that, right? Or their following or whatever the shit you want to call that stuff. That's just crazy. Like, really? Like, I can't get beyond some of these stupid things, just like I can't get beyond dumbass Doolin forgetting about somebody that he interviewed the entire time until some lady working in the office comes across it. Like, seriously, did something heavy drop on his head during that time? I don't get it. Like, that is just beyond ridiculous that someone forgets talking to someone about this case that's swallowing up the town, and you forget that you had a conversation with a guy. Yeah, I don't buy that. I just don't buy it. It's if it smells and stinks, then it probably is. Not to mention he was examining the girls, thinking they were adults or even 11. Yeah, I almost hate to think of what he was probably doing during that 1 hour time slot there. You know, but I definitely don't believe he was pulling out his freaking hacksaw, cutting down branches. I think that's pretty absurd. Like, maybe he had something, maybe in his little kit, you know, or maybe he had in the knapsack. Maybe he had something, but why would you go, you know what, I'm going to go take a couple girls out. Let me just bring my chainsaw with me, you know, cut some branches. Or they probably already cut from people that were there before or something like that. Like the actual owner of the land. Who knows? Can you find that first post Cheyenne put up about that day? Well, to be honest with you, the point is, do I want to? No. I'm kind of past all those things. Like, meaning, if you do a Google search, you're gonna you're gonna find it. I can't be asked for any of that stuff anymore. Like, for all these different. Actually, the one thing that I did kind of take was there was something off Reddit about the whole Jack Fu Sheng AO email thing, where people were talking about that, you know. And don't forget, you know, those dumbass defenses. They sent Brandon Woodhouse the thumb drive, you know, and that's why all these things you can see are true. That was a legit thumb drive. Yeah, no offense, Caesar. I'm just too lazy. If you find it for me, I'll be glad to put it up, but I can't be asked. Yeah, some of the things that the murders had to be finished by 3:32 when Libby's phone stopped moving. 2:32. I think you meant. But I don't think so. I think that's when her phone got wet and quit recording. Well, no, I don't think so. Because it's an upward movement. So that's going up the incline of the other side of the creek, right? So, okay. So hold on, let me read your thing again. When Libby's phone stopped movement, but I don't think so. I think that's when her phone got wet and quit recording. Oh, could be, for that. But we do know that it went up 20 feet and basically hit the, kind of stopped right there. So it could have been that. And hence why it recycled later in a sense and turned back on at a certain time, right? Maybe it did dry out enough and then it just kicked back on. That makes the most sense, really, about it. Not even the data thing, because you have to have Wi-Fi, or you have to be able to have data, over 50% and stuff like that. But it sounds the most likely that the phone did get wet and then it ended up getting dry over the course of the hours, especially if it's underneath of Abby's back leg and stuff like that. I think this is missing what the legal issue is in the motions and has been troubling to the other prosecutors. It is an easy reversal on there. Thanks, Travis. PCL, yes, they called it. They will call everyone that's confessed, right? I'm confused by that comment. Hello, they found DNA on the girls. Was it spit from Elvis? Did they test the DNA? Of course they tested the DNA. And again, it's what, unknown male, basically. Like it's contaminated, right? It's a mixture. I mean, it's one of those things, like, we obviously see things differently. And that's fine. That's fine. But it's so weird because you made a comment, though, public opinion. You made a comment about basically conspiracy theorists would only think that someone that had a heart stent could, drag people around and all that. But yet, from my angle, only a conspiracy theorist would say the stuff that you're saying, and it's because there's evidence to back it up. There's no evidence to back up that Elvis was there or anything. There's nothing, right? There's no DNA for Richard Allen. There's no DNA with that. But I mean, Elvis doesn't have a timeline. Nobody's drawing pictures of Elvis at the crime scene or anybody else in the whole thing, right? Because at the end of the day, Elvis, right? There's so many things that he has to break down his story. And that's why they didn't go anywhere with it. He can confess all he wants. But if he's over here in this part of Indiana, how the F without a car are you getting to the crime scene unless someone's dragging your ass there? Like, I can't remember everything with Elvis, but it was such a joke, honestly. That's one of those morons that says, hey, yeah, I'm fucked up in my head too, and I think I did it. And yet, but there's nothing to put him there. Like, nothing. Like, there's no one that saw him, seen him, but everything that is there to put Richard Allen. I don't think that's being biased. It's just what the evidence is absolutely showing. False confessions, they will say. Yeah, they're going to say that. Of course they are. Sorry, I'm just going to scroll down a bit here. Hi, dude, man, bro. It's pretty obvious any rational person, given the evidence, would convict. Well, I mean, that's personally my thoughts, to be honest with you. I just like to stay I don't want to take away from other people's thoughts, but I'm not going to lie. It's kind of hard sometimes when evidence is put in front of somebody and you're not trying to sit there and think to yourself, like, at least I'm not trying to go, oh my God, no. Like, it has to be Richard Allen, has to be, and I'm looking for every little droplet to prove that it's Richard Allen. It's not. It's about the evidence. It's about what they have, right? And again, it's the information that comes out. So if somebody has all these things and them or their own self putting themselves at the bridge, right? And everything. And then to me, a rational person would understand that the chances are more likely that this is truth versus that it's some odinistic other person type of thing. There's just too many things that fall in line. And with this dropping of the white van, that's just like icing on the cake right there, right? That's just icing. But then you have Richard Alley. As for the voice, unless you're an expert in voice analysis, to me, someone saying that Richard Allen, that, yeah, that's you, Richard Allen, and they're on the stand saying that, I would think an objection would happen right away. Like, how can somebody that's not experienced? So you've listened to calls or listened to audio. Does that give you the right to go, yep, that's definitely Richard Allen, without you being like an expert and putting the voices into analysis and whatever? But I can understand where, in my opinion, if they're allowed to say, like, if they say, that but even then, you're not supposed to give your opinions like that. But anyways, so, I mean, I would have loved to hear Richard Allen's voice myself. I think that when you do listen to it a lot, you can, and you might just become numb to it after a while. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I kind of find that funny myself, that someone's able to say, you are the one, Richard Allen. That's your voice, because I've listened to you this many times that I know now that it's your voice. Okay, we've all seen the voice analysis from Richard Allen and how everyone believed that their dog and their cat and everybody else's voice sounded just like Richard Allen, including my own POI, right? It's because you're right. It's just one of those things, is that, people can make everything sound like what they want to when they want to believe it. What did he say? Wait, did he say white van? He said white van. He said white van. Yeah. Oh, okay. I wouldn't know. Can you tell Aspen? I mean, I see he's been in chat a little bit. Melissa, tell him I want to do that. We'll be doing a live tomorrow night. And I want him to join. Make him. All right. Give him a hug for me too. Give him an ass slap as well. Isn't the other guy like Alan? Juan isn't an old guy like Alan Anthony? Or like Alan Anthony? Just gonna not hurt my brain on that one. Well, it will come back then, new trial. We'll see. I mean, I think that there's gonna be an appeal anyway. Where's the FBI anyway? Are they sleeping at the wheel too? No, they got kicked off the case. Yeah, and then Dan Doolan didn't see RA as a spot suspect after forgetting about him that matched the description. KCL, there is nothing in this world that can convince me that if someone talks to me and they literally self-report themselves, and then you literally talk with this dude, which you deem as odd, right? You deem it as odd because, oh, well, I don't typically meet people that save a lot. But okay. And then even if the paperwork got lost, right? Even if the paperwork got lost, you would still know that you talked to someone. But what happened? Because he had it on his computer, the shit he said, right? Remember, he was going through his computer. It sounds, that's the biggest bunch of bullshit ever. He probably couldn't remember the Richard Allen's name worth nothing or whatever. I don't know. I can't even explain it. It's just so absurd to me. Like that, like, honestly, I want to rage over that. How do you forget? You literally talked to a person that's self-reported and you met with, and you, out of all those years, your fucking dumbass can't remember? Are you kidding me? Considering that case was so huge right away, and you forget that you talked to somebody? You're like, fuck off on that one. Fuck right off, Doolin. Sorry, but honestly, I want to know what could have ever made this person forget that he spoke to the one person that was on the bridge, right? That one person that they had counted for everybody else, but they didn't account for that one person. And your fucking dumbass interviewed him, and you couldn't. There's something amiss with that, okay? I don't care. Call it corruptness. Call it, hiding shit. Whatever you want. It's bullshit. Nobody would forget that they literally spoke to a person literally days after the murder. And then you're like, yeah, you're just cleared. You're good. You know what? You were there at the same time as Abby and Libby at the bridge. Thank you for self-reporting. Wonderful of you. Have a great day. Never talk to you again. Right? Stupid. That pisses me off because there's nothing that can make me ever believe that dumbass Doolin just forgot. He just forgot. Was he friends with Richard Allen? It does make you question that shit. Like people have talked about. Is it one of those things? Yeah, hey bud, no problem. You're good to go. I got your back, bro. I know you wouldn't do something like this. You're good, cleared. Sonny, he was getting thousands of tips and a comma wasn't used after. Yeah, I know that. But the thing is, out of all those thousands of tips, he legitly spoke with the person that was at the bridge. That's my point, badass, is that he literally talked with him at the Save-A-Lot. It's not just a tip. It was a tip that they got in that they turned around and called Richard Allen. Baby, do you need to go to bed, honey?
I've been messaging you.
Oh.
You never use your phone.
Well, I didn't hear it go off. Husband's getting cranky. It is 11:25. Ah, shit. You guys, I gotta go. But you know what? I have tomorrow off. Yay. I got tomorrow off on Saturday. Tomorrow night we're gonna do a live, and I know Deb's gonna be on and whoever else. I'll just have to. So sorry if I can't get back down to all these questions, you guys. But my husband, oh my God, I was way behind. I got a question, facts, and this is one that doesn't add up. Anyway. Oh my God, rough night, Sonny. Rough night, yeah. I was swinging from some chandeliers. You know how it goes. Yeah. So I appreciate you guys that had come in, and again, each to their own. Obviously, because I'm the creator, right? My voice is the only one being heard here. But again, everyone has their own thoughts, own whatever to do with Richard Allen. You might think I'm the biggest dumbass about the case. I don't care. We all have our opinions, right? That doesn't make us perfect and it doesn't make us right. Just my opinions. And then when whatever happens with the trial will happen. But do appreciate everybody for coming in, keeping it classy, keeping it respectful. That's just always appreciated first and foremost on there. Travis, nice to see you. Mods, thank you so much. Gail Hurd, thank you for your she gifted 1, 2, 3, 4. She gifted 9 memberships altogether. So thank you very much, Gail Hurd, on our last day of October here. Perfect. Halloween. And other than that being said, you guys, again, we'll be doing a live tomorrow night on it, and then we'll have some of the other lights. We'll see if Alexa can join criminal profiler, see what Charmaine's up to, see what Aspen's up to, and Deb, and yeah, we'll just see what goes on. Okay, guys. So anyways, God bless. Thank you guys. Again, thank you guys for your opinions and your thoughts. And I know I didn't do a poll tonight. Okay, bless. Have a great night and happy Halloween. Hope you guys had one. Happy November 1st tomorrow. Okay, guys.